Town Health. Thursday mornings at 7:30 on Up North News Radio.
Here's today's STEM tip. Don't throw out that old plastic bottle. Repurpose it by turning it into an awesome terrarium. Just fill it with sand, pebbles, soil, and your favorite plant. It'll grow sealed right in its own ecosystem. Learn more at She Can STEM. A message from the Ad Council.
The Shaw 101 FM, your fix for progressive talk. From Butler to Wind Lake. Always streaming at WAUK.
As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Bry is an independent product and has a joint sales agreement with Civic Media. Enjoy.
You know a lot about drinking beer. I know very little about brewing beer, but it is a science.
Is there ever any danger, Sam, of anything blowing up in my kitchen if I decide to homebrew?
Do you have any scars?
I have a lot of burns, which, have left scars. We deal with a lot of hot liquid.
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristin Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin! Hello, Wisconsin. It is Monday, the Monday after the Super Bowl. Welcome to the show. And there may be about 18.8 million Americans who called in sick today. But we are here and we are live. Jane Metnair, how you doing?
I am great. What a gorgeous day.
I know.
It's almost 50 degrees, folks.
It's a no-coat day.
Yeah.
Yesterday was kind of a no-coat day too.
Yeah. We're gonna have these valleys now. Friday's gonna be 21 degrees. So enjoy.
Enjoy it while we have it. All right. Well, we have an absolutely stacked show today. I went to sleep early last night. I got up early this morning. I am prepped for this show. We have so many guests, and sometimes it's a little stressful when we have guests back to back, but I am so excited for everyone we have today. So in the first hour at 11:30, there is a story out of Ohio that you may or may not have heard of, because I don't feel like it's getting the attention that it certainly deserves. So
not nearly.
East Palestine.
Palestine.
Is it Palestine? I thought it was Palestine. I've heard different pronunciations of it. Small Upper Ohio Valley town. And my buddy, John Russel, who is a Upper Ohio Valley guy, he's been on the show before. He has a newsletter called The Holler. He's also kind of in the same genre of me as far as makes TikToks on capitalism and wealth disparity and eating the rich, as they say. So he's been on the show before, but he snuck in past police blockades to go report on this, because apparently he doesn't qualify as the media, but because he's from the area, he knew the back roads to get in there. So he was there live when there was, at the press conference, another journalist got arrested for no apparent reason.
I saw that.
And authorities are already telling people who live there that they can go back. But this was poisonous, toxic waste that's spilled in this, kind of decrepit town, like so many of that part of Ohio is. And so John's gonna be joining us at 11:30 to talk about his firsthand reporting and a litany of other, this isn't the first time this has happened in that area.
No.
And it's not the first time that it's kind of gone unreported in that area. And so I'm so excited to be able to talk to him and have him break it down for us. And then at 11:50, at the end of this hour, we are going to be talking to Dusty Weis, who is the owner of PodCamp Media. He's been on the show before too. Last time he was on, we talked about him going up in a fighter jet. But this time, while the Super Bowl for many is about the game, for marketers and advertisers, it's about the commercials.
Big time.
So he is here with his winners and losers from yesterday. But to kick off the show, I thought we would talk about the Super Bowl. And it feels like there's a fair amount of, I don't know if I would go as far as controversies, but feels like there's a variety of different points that we could debate that are up for debate this morning. Obviously, the game ended with a pretty controversial call a pretty controversial holding call on the Eagles that may or may not have decided the game because both the Eagles and the Chiefs played their hearts out, but the Kansas Chiefs narrowly beat the Philadelphia Eagles in a very high-scoring Super Bowl that, poor Philly. Not that Philly are really the nicest fans. They're not really known for being
Gracious,
cordial, I would say. I've never been to a Phillies game, but I have family that have, or not a Phillies game, but an Eagles game, and they were pretty sure they were gonna get beat up by the time they left the
that's always a lovely feeling.
And so, but I do like Jalen Hurts, and I always kind of like the team that hasn't won most recently. But the Chiefs did win. Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback, added another win under his belt, Super Bowl MVP for the second time. But, other people's Super Bowl, I would say, was waiting to see Rihanna's performance. And for me, I don't know, I had the game on in the background because I had to work and get ready for the week's worth of shows. So I had moved my external monitor down to my dining room table and had it all set up so I could watch TV and work. And so I hadn't realized throughout the entire broadcast that Fox was having issues with its audio syncing up with people's mouths.
Oh, wow.
And so I finally stopped working and moved to the couch for the halftime show so you can know where my priorities are. And immediately was like, what's going on? Because it wasn't slight. It was 3 seconds.
Oh, that's bad.
It didn't happen for you?
Okay, I watch the TV in the kitchen, which is relatively far away from me. So it's not like I'm watching. I couldn't see a lot of detail.
So it made it seem like she was lip syncing, which I don't know if she was or not. I'm sure to a certain extent there's always some backup vocals, but it seemed egregious. And so immediately I went to Twitter and tweeted about it and immediately was told this has been happening the whole broadcast. So, one controversy, can't trying to imagine being Fox, who paid billions of dollars to have this broadcast only to have audio issues. But also controversy around, I feel like whenever there is a female performer at halftime who is sexual in any way, there is always chit chat on the social medias as far as it being too sexual, too nasty. And to me, I just would like to remind people the television does not raise your children. You raise your children. And so if you didn't know what kind of music Rihanna sings, or if you've never seen the Rude Boy music video, you maybe should have known what you were expecting. Like, did you think, because you were a little bit more sensitive than I, Jane, as far as you thought there was going to be nipples.
Oh, yeah.
Nipplage.
Oh, I fully. I mean, she has a lingerie line. I assumed that would be a center part of. Why don't do a little cross promotion while you're.
Were you offended at all by her performance?
I was confused. I didn't understand the puffy marshmallow dancers at all. Not at all.
Just their costumes?
Just the costumes. I mean, the dance moves, which happened so quickly, I wasn't sure if they were dirty or not.
Okay.
Because it went past so fast.
I mean, it was a speed round of her, going on 20 years of a career. And like, she played the hits.
Yeah.
And she fit them almost all in. And so I thought it was good. Obviously, it was so much simpler than I feel like what we're used to seeing. Because she had said there was going to be a special guest. And so I think people were waiting for Kanye to come out or waiting for Jay-Z to come out. Jay-Z, who was there, which, by the way, I saw an adorable clip of Blue, their first kid, who's like a teenager now.
Oh, God, that's hard to
on
believe.
the field, like looking like she's probably making a TikTok. And then Jay-Z there as like a proud dad holding the camera and getting the angles for her.
Oh, funny.
But turns out the surprise guest, was her second unborn child, that she is indeed pregnant, and that was her big announcement. And so I liked it. It was a little weird But I like Rihanna, so I don't think it was too nasty. I think in comparison to, was it 3 years ago with J-Lo and Shakira, where everyone was in a tizzy because
Of the dancing?
of their gyrations.
I was amazed by the physicality of that and what it took to do that. And especially for J-Lo, who's in her 50s.
I mean, neither of them are. She was 50 at that point, and Shakira was definitely in her mid-40s.
Yeah. And Rihanna, I mean, granted, she's obviously pregnant with her second child, and she didn't do much choreography herself. Maybe that's why they had the 900 puffy marshmallow dancers to make up for that. But we're gonna in the third hour, in the 1 o'clock hour, we're gonna have a special edition game, because there was some outcry about how dirty this was. And there was a Republican lawmaker who suggested an alternative for Super Bowl entertainment. So I thought we could do some lyric comparisons. It'll be fun.
I can't wait for that game. That's going to be at 1:20 in the third hour. But the controversy I do want to talk about, and I'm going to set it up now, and we're going to talk about it after we come back from this next break, is the Jesus ads. And not because I have anything against Jesus. In fact, actually, while they felt out of place, what was crazy is the Jesus that I understand him to be, or how he is taught and what the Bible says about Jesus, is that it is these images and these ads are much more in line with the like socialist, refugee, anti-capitalist,
love thy neighbor like thyself
Jesus that's in the Bible. But the groups that are funding, that can afford to do not one, but 2 Super Bowl ads, not quite aligned in that mission is what they're promoting in the ads. And so to a certain extent, I there's a part of me that's like, well, if you can afford 2 Super Bowl ads, which are set for 30 seconds are $7 million, can you afford to pay taxes?
And another side note, what else could have been done with that $14 to $20 million to further the mission of Jesus?
Because when we come back, we will talk more about what has been found of the groups that are behind this. It's not just these 2 commercials. It's a $100 million campaign that's been going on. And so, but I ask you now, what would have been the reaction if this was a Muhammad gets us campaign or a Judaism campaign? Would we have all just been like, it's fine?
What about the flying spaghetti monster?
That too. 844-967-2789. That is 844-96-party. What'd you think of the Jesus ads? This is As Goes Wisconsin.
The show's about to start, but we ain't about to leave. It's one hell of a time and a song for free at the parking lot party. The tailgate buzz, just sipping on subs, ain't never too early. To light one up, fill up your cup, cause there ain't no party like the pre-party and after party, the after party and the parking lot party. Party now, come on. Parking lot party. Oh, they got to tow my ass out here.
Do you love getting rewards when you shop? Then shop Knucklehead CBD and vapes with the Knuckleheads Club. Every $10 spent gets you closer to 25% off. No matter what you buy, make sure you buy Knuckleheads. Stop in Saturday and Sunday and get 15% off Wellness and Wellness Plus, including Delta 8, THCP, CBD, and more, while getting points towards your next purchase.
Visit Knuckleheads Milwaukee at 2949 North Oakland Avenue or online at knuckleheads.shop.
Knucklehead CBD and vapes, your one-stop smoke shop.
Ty Kristin from Lords of the Trident. Can you say Max Inc. Radio rocks, Jimmy K is awesome in Japanese?
Sure. Let's see. How do I say rocks? Let me see. Sugoi! Max Inc. Radio wa sugoi datta omoimasu. I just said you're great,
Thank you. You're great too. Original local music from Wisconsin. It's Max Inc. Radio on Civic Media. Saturday night, 6 p.m. to midnight. We are local music.
This is Pat Greightlow from Up North News Radio. On the air, online, or on demand, make it a point to catch the first word on Wisconsin news, sports, and more weekday mornings from 6 to 8 all across the stations of the Civic Media Radio Network.
It's easy to listen to your favorite local radio station anytime. Download the Civic Media app from the Apple or Google Play Store, then listen live or whenever you want from anywhere for free.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Highs around 46 this afternoon under sunny skies, west winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Tonight, lows dip down to about 30. Scattered rain showers likely. Tomorrow, highs around 48. Cloudy skies expected. Cloudy skies expected Wednesday with daytime highs approaching 45. 27 chance of snow Thursday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 37 degrees.
The Shaw 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM, Wisconsin's home for rational talk radio.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Bry and Jane Madnair, and we are taking your reactions because out of all the things I feel like we could have talked about, and there's certainly chatter about a lot of different things from the Super Bowl yesterday, but your reactions to the Jesus ads.
The Jesus Gets Us.
The Jesus Gets Us ads. 844-967-2789. You can call us or you can shoot us a text if you're in a spot right now where you can't be on the phone. But my reaction, well, let's give a little bit of feedback. But my reaction is I have nothing, especially the Jesus that they've rebranded as far as trying, because it's a recruitment campaign.
Definitely.
It's trying to bring people back to church and to Christianity, because since the 1990s, I mean, I was reading this morning, in the 1990s, 90% of Americans identified as Christian.
Wow.
In the 90s. In the 90s. And today, in 2022, 63% of American adults identified as Christians.
Interesting.
So it's a big drop.
It is a big
drop.
drop.
It's also, some of it is people leaving the church entirely. Some of it is a growing population of different religions. But it's like missionaries, like it's missions trips, and it's a recruitment strategy as far as trying to get people to come back to the church. But as far as just a little bit of feedback, because you'd maybe wonder when you think about your neighborhood church or your community church, would they have to just have $7 million lying around to spend on a Super Bowl ad? But in fact, those weird Super Bowl ads were bankrolled by a group that helped overturn Roe.
Oh, well, there's a big shocker.
Yeah. The campaign is called He Gets Us, and it is supported by the Servant Foundation, which gives many millions to conservative legal advocacy. So the company is called He Gets Us, and they paid about $20 million to run 2 ads during the Super Bowl. And the ads are part of a larger $100 million media campaign. So these ads have been in the NCAA tournament, the Grammys. So in most of the big viewing events, there's been one of the 17 ads that's part of this campaign. And so they're diverse. Like, the diverse ads promote Christianity by presenting Jesus as an inclusive, wrongly judged figure committed to social justice, which, if you read the Bible, he was.
New Testament.
But the groups paying for them, I don't know if they share that perspective. And so the group is a subsidiary of a Kansas-based group called the Servant Foundation, which we just said. And that group has donated more than $50 million.
Wow.
To the Alliance Defending Freedom between 2018 and 2020. And the Alliance Defending Freedom is a conservative Christian legal advocacy group that helped get Roe overturned.
okay, I've been away from the Bible for a long time, but I was raised Catholic and I had 7 years of Catholic school. Jesus loved people who collected taxes. He was so pro. I mean, it's just it's so interesting.
So interesting.
So interesting.
So this is a group that worked with Mississippi lawmakers to draft the law at the heart of Dobbs versus Jackson, and their lawyers also argued the case before justices at the Supreme Court that would have been in 2021 and then the ruling came down last year. But this is a group that has been designated an anti-LGBTQ plus hate group by Southern Poverty Law Center. And it's the group that is also working to overturn Colorado's anti-discrimination law by representing a web designer who refuses to make wedding websites for same-sex couples. So that's the same group. And it's also the group that is behind an effort before a Texas federal court to end FDA approval of medication prescribed to end pregnancy. So they're busy.
They are busy.
They're busy.
Just to throw this out there, it almost feels like a bait and switch, doesn't it?
I know.
Huh.
I know.
Huh.
It is funny because then they did get some backlash from some of their own. I guess Charlie Kirk was didn't like the ads. He felt like the ads were giving in to the woke mob by rebranding Jesus in this way.
Yeah, definitely. Charlie, you come up with ads about how Jesus really hated everybody who wasn't like him.
I love how this is rebranding Jesus and that the white version of Jesus isn't the rebranded one. It's like, we all know that Jesus wasn't white, right?
I really want to hear Charlie Kirk's pro-Jesus ad.
So I just come back. I mean, granted, it's not just a church that is funding this. So I'm sure to a certain extent, they've figured out the legal loopholes as far as why this is fine. But it's just the amount of money that is going to things like this when you are doing your donations to your church and the way it goes back up to buy Super Bowl ads is interesting.
It is.
And furthermore, and granted, like we said, there's a majority of Americans still identify as Christian. And even beyond that majority, I think so many of us are conditioned to be it's fine when we see Christian ideology and symbols because it's been a majority Christian nation for so long. So I'm just saying, if it's a free market and anyone can buy an ad, who would have just lost their mind had it been a Judaism ad or an Islam ad, right?
I'm going to contact the Pastafarians. There's an ad to be made there.
Especially when you're high.
Well, with a colander on your head.
All right, when we come back, Mr. John Russel is going to be here to talk about the train derailment and give us a firsthand report of what happened. Stick around. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
A progressive voice for rural Wisconsin. WAUK 540 AM. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
CBS News brief. 3 objects shot down by the military.
Hey.
How you doing?
So well. How you doing?
Pretty good. Just kicking the show off. But I'm really excited. Your newsletter this week was written so well.
Thanks.
And so I'm very excited to talk to you and get. I mean, even in the 15 minutes we have, we're probably only going to be able to scratch the surface.
Yeah.
But kind of outline of the questions I have is what happened.
Mm-hmm.
I think telling your story of how you snuck past police to get in there.
Yep.
Any background about the journalist who got arrested, because I don't think there's a lot of clarity of what happened there.
Sure.
But I also, and anything else particularly that you want to make sure we set up to ask?
Yes, why this happened. The media angle is like there's a lot of attention on the press arrest. There's a lot of attention on the chemicals released and how much cancer we're going to get. There's not a lot of attention on why.
The Shaw 101 FM.
All right. Well, then, yeah. So we'll get back in like 11:33. And I got you until 11:48.
Okay, sounds good.
Our time. So an hour ahead for you.
Nice.
For Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what you need to know. Expect more state money to go to local communities in Wisconsin to cover their public safety costs. Milwaukee Democrat Lena Taylor and Racine Republican Van Wangard were on the Upfront TV program yesterday. They both say they expect an agreement on shared revenue. Taylor and Wangard say the sticking point will be exactly how the money can be spent. Wisconsin Supreme Court candidate Dan Kelly is turning up his attacks on conservative rival Jennifer Dorow. At a Republican Party event in the Madison area last week, Kelly again said he would not commit to endorsing Dorow if she wins the primary. He went on to question her conservative bona fides and even her understanding of the law. The primary is a week from tomorrow. In sports, ESPN reports the New York Jets are asking the Packers about trading for quarterback Aaron Rodgers. I'm Terry Bell, and this is Civic Media News.
You know him as the nose tackle for the green and gold, 1993 to 1999, and again 2001 to 2003. 125 games, 292 tackles, 7 sacks, and a Super Bowl ring. But there's more to life than stats, and there's more to life than football. You're about to find out. Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, featuring Packers legend Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Monday mornings at 8 on the Shaw and on the Civic Media app.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
Speaker Voss, I understand you don't have any children. Does that mean he's been possibly practicing sex with contraceptives? What? Or is he just less than a man? How do you go through the entire life 3 wives later and no chitlins? Shooting blanks? Perhaps. Pull and pray. Doubtful. Not getting any. Unlikely. Unable to perform. More likely. Paying for it. I hate to judge.
We don't judge here. We're the Devil's Advocate. Listen to the Devil's Advocates live weekdays from 3 to 6 p.m.
I asked what kind of family she wanted. She said, a family like yours.
Learn more about adopting a teen at adoptuskids.org. You can't imagine the reward. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services, Adopt U.S. Kids, and the Ad Council.
She is Jane Matnair, and last week, a train carrying hazardous materials went off the tracks in East Palestine, Ohio. It burst into flames and stoked fears of a potential explosion, and now authorities have assured evacuated residents that it's safe to return to their town, which I don't know if anyone's buying that because that feels like a pretty quick cleanup. But I thought I would invite my friend of the show, John Russel, who did some stealth on-site reporting during the press conference that was there last week. He's an Upper Ohio Valley guy. He also is the author of The Holler, which is an Appalachian-based independent media for fed-up working-class people. And he's back on the show to tell us about what's actually going on. Welcome back, John Russel.
Well, hi, everybody. Thanks for having me.
So I saw this because we are TikTok friends, and I think I had finished my show at some point last week and was scrolling through and saw that you were doing a live, like a TikTok live of the press conference. And I highly recommend going to read his newsletter from this week, The Holler, of his coverage of this, because you have an interesting perspective, because this is your, not that you're from East Palestine, but like this is your area, right?
Yeah, if you grew up in a rural area, you kind of know the deal here. I grew up in a town 20 miles away, same county, Wellsville, East Palestine. I went up there a lot. You get to know in these small rural counties, a lot of people from different high schools. Y'all hang out at the county fair. That's how I knew people in East Palestine. And that's how I got into the press conference. I went up there and the major roads were blocked off by the cops, but when you're from there, you can sneak in the back way. So that's what I did, and took TikTok along with me.
So besides the little recap I just gave. What happened?
Yeah, so obviously a train derailment with a catastrophic explosion and release of the chemicals that were being carried there. There has been a lot of investigation, and rightly so, into the chemicals that were released, the long-term effects of those, where they're all going to go. Obviously, at the press conference, there was an arrest of a reporter that was very brazen. But the angle that I'm really taking in the holler and asking about locally is the role that excess profit seeking on behalf of the rail carriers might have played in a mechanical failure. I think that's an angle that needs to be looked at a lot more in the coverage of the incident.
Because in your purview, how does this tie back to the railroad strikers or the railroad workers and their squashed strike from last year?
It's very interconnected. So I think what listeners should add to this, their consciousness of this story, and should look up, is a corporate practice by the railroads, which is called precision scheduled railroading. What that is basically cutting everything to make a lot of money. PSR has been implemented by the major railroads. It means longer trains, less staff on those trains, for dispatch systems that have to monitor emergencies on trains and braking failures on trains. There's less people monitoring more trains for that. There are less people performing routine maintenance on cars. If you follow the story at all, you'll know it's an axle failure that caused this derailment. There's also been some talk about braking system management and the overworked dispatchers that could respond to this kind of situation. But how this ties back to the rail strike is workers basically called this months ago. I was talking to a leader of one of the major rail unions and a 22-year rail veteran himself, 7 weeks before this derailment, who said, these derailments are picking up because less maintenance is being done for the sake of making more profit. And what he said at the time before this disaster, weeks before it, was that it was only a matter of time until these profit-seeking measures that are cutting back on maintenance result in some kind of catastrophe. And weeks later, here we are.
Oh, that's so infuriating. But I think it's, it was hard in reading your report on this, or your reporting on this in your newsletter. It was also, I couldn't help but think of, stay with me here. Because on the 80 for Brady press tour, Jane Fonda got into some controversy because she said there would be no climate crisis if there wasn't racism. And she goes on to say, if there wasn't race, where would they put the poison? Because they're not going to put it in Bel Air. And so thinking about what you were writing, as far as this is not the first time this has happened and gone fairly underreported in Ohio. And Ohio is so much opening its doors for this to happen, to basically just exploit people in your neck of the woods in the upper valley of Ohio to be exposed to the poison and being because they can't fight back.
You nailed it. If you don't have money, you get all the stuff that richer communities don't want in their backyards. And that's been the story of where I live, the Ohio Valley, and where this derailment happened. Unfortunately, it's not a unique thing. It's another addition to the roster of industrial tragedy that happens here. Usually, and you're correct in saying that usually those tragedies coincide with some of the poorest communities. And that's definitely the case here. I think, another thing is that this really cuts across a lot of social identities. It cuts across race. You can be any race in this valley, but what we all are is relatively poor. And because of that, we have to deal with the negative consequences of industry. And frankly, this playbook, which is happening in real time, it happens a lot that a large company makes a lot of profit doing things the quick and dirty way. They stick communities with the bag. And that is the playbook that runs business in America that we're seeing happen right here. I mean, Norfolk Southern, in exchange for blowing up a train full of hazardous chemicals in this community, offered a hilariously low sum for compensation, $25,000. to the town. So you see this too. I want to draw a parallel. This region was impacted massively by opioids. And there again, you see companies making a ton of money, killing a lot of folks who are addicted to their product, nobody going to jail because of that, and only fines levied upon these companies, which really amount to just the cost of doing business. And I think we're going to see a similar playbook here.
We're talking to John Russel, who is the author of The Holler and is also an Upper Ohio Valley guy. And so the derailment that happened in East Palestine last week in Ohio happened in his backyard. And so having a conversation with an independent media guy, because the mainstream media isn't really covering this in the same way as far as this being preventable, period, right?
Yeah, big time. And here's another angle to really look into here. Wall Street has its fingers in every sector of the economy. So we started this with a talk about that press conference where I was live on TikTok. I'll do some more. If you read the newsletter, you'll see this angle in there, and I'm going to develop this a little bit. But to generalize, the press outlets that were covering this disaster, many of them were owned by the same private equity firms that also have significant shares in Norfolk Southern. So major Wall Street capital firms have been rolling up local news and also railroads. So when a train explodes in a town, the local news that comes to cover the train, both the news that's reporting on the disaster and the company that caused the disaster are significantly owned by private equity and Wall Street, and both of them are in pursuit of excess profits, which is one of the factors here, which, why you're seeing the press talk about, well, how much cancer are we going to get from this and when, instead of asking, what could the corporate practice of cutting back on staff safety and maintenance have had to do with why this derailed in the first place? I think that's an angle we'll cover in the holler too.
And John, from what I understand too, there has been an immense amount of lobbying from the rail industry and from Wall Street across administrations about not pursuing some of these additional safety measures, especially when it comes to brakes and things like that.
Yeah, and unfortunately, this is kind of a perfect storm of a failure of regulation, and again, profit seeking by the largest companies, which are owned by the largest private equity firms. This is, see, you got me on my, still, I lost my train of thought there. Go back to the question if you can.
Again, just that there has been, this goes across administrations. This is not a Republican administration. This is not a Democratic administration. This kind of lobbying and pressure to back off of more regulations for this industry is to blame across the political spectrum.
That's for sure. So when you saw the floodgates of money in politics open, it really was both parties that took it. So, large businesses are going to bet on both red and black. They're going to bet on red and blue in this instance so that they have an audience with whoever wins here. And what I'd really like to see from this, and what I've been surprised by, is the lack of response from Democrats on this. I mean, we are supposed to be the party of the working class here. When a train derails, and it has a lot to do with the corporate practices in maintenance of one of these large industries you're supposed to regulate, I want to see the party on the ground here fighting the companies that are making life hard in a town like East Palestine. If you want to regain your base, then you have to show up to places like this. And I've been disappointed so far by the lack of folks showing up to make this an issue.
What has been the talking points that have come down from, whether it's the congressmen, senators, state legislators, the governor? Has it been kind of in lockstep with what the media has been saying as far as this is a tragedy, but not actually talking about any kind of accountability?
Yeah, and even worse than that, I mean, our congressman here, Bill Johnson, represents Ohio's 6th district, hasn't said, the last time I checked, has not said anything about this. I mean, this is a United States congressional representative, hasn't said a word about this. So it's been hopelessly silent from a lot of the officials. And unfortunately, the problem here, when local papers have died off, oftentimes the first news that makes it out the facts really have to run through a gauntlet of influence. And in initial disasters like this, it's usually the company that has the most knowledge and power to influence the direction of the press coverage.
So
say that again.
So they're saying people can go back. Is it possible that they actually cleaned it up that quickly, that it is safe for people to go back?
These are my words. I would say no.
Yeah.
Whenever you look back at the history of industrial disasters like this, the worst of the consequences take years and years and years to show up. And this is a call to anybody listening, if they're citizen scientists, university people who want to help out with this. There really needs to be monitoring done over the long term and follow up and accountability over years and years and years. The toothpaste will not go back in the tube with this, but there should be a long-term accountability project.
Oh, well, I wish we could keep you longer, but I know that you're going to continue covering this on The Holler, where can people find all of your media and all the good work that you do independently?
Yep, the videos will be on social media. That's at Hey John Russell, 2 S's, 2 L's. There you go. And then The Holler is the newsletter. We go a little bit more in depth there, including a 20-minute interview with a 22-year railroad veteran about some of these things. That'll be in the newsletter. That is theholler.co, the Holler, Ohio Valley.
And we'll tweet all that out from our social media and put it in our show notes today. John Russell, thank you for taking time to talk about this with us. As it develops, please come back and keep us informed, because it doesn't necessarily seem that other news outlets will do it justice the way that you are trying to do it justice. So thank you for your work, and thank you for joining us.
Well, thanks for spreading the word. Look forward to talking more.
All right. Well, we are going to take a break, and when we come back,
Civic Media promised you something big to celebrate our new and still growing network of radio stations. When we announced the one.
Hey, how's it going?
Good. You sound good.
Awesome. I'm gonna play a clip right quick here. Make sure that comes through.
Free digital collectible. Scan now.
You got it.
All right.
Sounds
perfect.
great.
We're good
Sounds
to
like
go.
we played it. All right. Well, great. Well, I already said the outline as far as we'll be fast, but I'm going to let you rip. And obviously, we can point out that you guys led balloon.
Monday morning,
got
don't miss
lead balloon.
Lead balloon. Lead balloon.
It is lead balloon. Okay. Just making sure. And it's pod camp, not podcast media, which I remember from last time. All right. We'll be back in a minute.
Sounds good.
New Ferrari with turbo boost. So enjoy it, brother.
Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Monday morning at 8 on the Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM WAUK.
Telling my girls about my Alzheimer's diagnosis was hard.
But Mom's early detection gave us time to make a plan.
Talk to your family about seeing a doctor. Go to alz.org/time to talk. A message from the Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
Stories come to life at your local parks and forests. They're places of wonder, and they're closer than you think. Make the forest part of your story today at a local park near you, or find one at discovertheforest.org. Brought to you by the United States Forest Service and the Ad Council.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Sunny skies and calm this afternoon with a high of 46. West winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Tonight, lows level off around 30. Overcast skies tomorrow. Scattered rain showers likely. High temperatures reach up to 48. Mid-40s Wednesday, turning much cooler Thursday with highs in the upper 20s and snow possible. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 37 degrees.
Bringing some sanity to the airwaves. The Shaw 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM.
Hello, ladies. Look at your man. Now back to me. Now back at your man. Now back to me.
Sadly, he isn't me. But if he stopped using lady-scented body wash and switched to Old Spice, he could smell like he's me. Look down. Back up. Where are you? You're on a boat with the man your man could smell like. What's in your hand? Back at me. I have it. It's an oyster with 2 tickets to that thing you love. Look again. The tickets are now diamonds. Anything is possible when your man smells like Old Spice and not a lady. I'm on a horse.
I'm on a horse. God,
Harkening back to
one.
a simpler time in advertising when commercials could just be awesome.
And that was an awesome commercial. All right, well, we're going to jump right into it. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin. I am your host, Kristin Bry, with Jane Matnair, and our guest for this segment is Dusty Weis, who is host of the Lead Balloon podcast and president of PodCamp Media, a podcast production company for brands in Milwaukee. And he is here to tell us his winners and losers of Super Bowl commercials from yesterday. So I'm going to hand it off right to you.
Kristin, Jane, thanks for having me again. I think as a football fan, I could speak on behalf of all football fans everywhere and say I was just relieved to have a game for once that was more exciting than the commercials were. But
Indeed.
do have a couple of broad takeaways here from the advertising game within the game last night. And I think the biggest takeaway, first and foremost, is the complete absence of any cryptocurrency ads.
I know.
The silence was deafening. Last year, there were 4 crypto ads that ran during the Super Bowl and then a whole bunch of stuff on the field, too. They called it the Crypto Bowl. Larry David, Steph Curry, Tom Brady, LeBron James, all these people let their names get used by these companies. And I think that we're left to conclude, based on the events of the past year and the absence of any crypto advertising last night, that maybe fortune doesn't favor the brave so much. But if there's a sucker born every minute, that means that there's at least 525,600 new suckers this year. And I would imagine that they had their phones out more than once. You'll remember one of the big sensations during last year's Super Bowl was Coinbase's ad that was just a floating QR code that moved around the screen. Do you remember that?
Yeah.
Well, as we tend to see whenever something succeeds one year, everybody dogpiles onto the trend the next year. And we saw tons of QR codes. They were all frankly terrible and annoying, but none was worse than this 30-second anime fever dream where 2 sword-waving cartoons attack a treasure box for some reason and told us next to nothing about the product that they were hawking.
Free digital collectible. Scan now.
Oh, cool! I get an NFT. That's great. I don't know what's worse, the fact that the brains behind Digi-Daigaku chose to spend $6.5 million to air this thing, or that people who scanned that QR code are now already trying to sell these NFTs for $700 online right now. But if I'm looking for a bright side in all of this, it is that if we're heading for a good old-fashioned recession like they say we are, right now, that ought to put the final nail in the coffin when people no longer have the disposable income for this kind of nonsense. But another loser that I want to highlight before we move on to a little more positive spin here is this spot for online shopping app Temu.
I'm shopping like a billionaire. I'm shopping like a billionaire.
So it's colorful, it's eye-catching, it's obnoxiously earwormy, and they ran it 4 times, once in the first half, once in the second half, and then twice in the post-game. And from that, we can only deduce that we're going to be bombarded by this for the rest of the year. But it's 2023, it's not 2016, and I don't know, I don't think you could just launch a new app with a nonsensical name using a Super Bowl commercial and expect it to stick around. I mean, let's talk about Yik Yak, Quibi, Blippy, Flibbity Flop, Boo Boo.
Quibi was the short form 10-minute episodes, right?
And it's gone.
And it's gone.
It's all gone.
I remember I was still living in LA when that was like about to launch, and it was the big deal. And then it launched basically during the pandemic, and everyone was like, TikTok.
I want to relaunch it just for the name. We got to be able to use that somewhere.
It's these nonsensical brand names for apps. I think it's a flash in the pan thing, and most of them have all burned out. And frankly, I don't expect Temu to be around once their ad budget runs out too much. But the second thing about Temu that's a little more sinister is that I did the research into it. This is actually a Chinese e-retailer that's trying to make inroads into America. And, you know, our airspace is already cluttered up with spy balloons right now. Now they're cluttering up our Super Bowl advertising too. I don't see it panning out for them. But I did want to highlight a few brands with local ties. And the first is Molson Coors, formerly Miller Coors, formerly Miller. But this is the first time that they've aired a Super Bowl ad in 30 years. And it featured two guys fighting over whether it was a Coors commercial or a Miller commercial.
Coors commercial, Miller commercial.
Actually, it's a Blue Moon commercial.
Now, on the one hand, all right, it's kind of cute. Way to go. But we all know that Miller, Coors, and Blue Moon are all owned by the same company. But I also want to point out the bar is pretty high for beer ads, and I don't know if any of us are going to be talking about this one in a month. So I thought it was a miss.
It was kind of, for being the first time, because it was the first time. This was the year that Anheuser-Busch basically stopped having exclusive rights, and so it was the first time other beer companies could even have commercials. And you think they were going to spend the money to do it, make it a little bit more memorable?
I would think so. I don't know. I'm going to be unpopular for saying that, so I'll move on. I do have to point out one of my favorites of the night was, this is actually my third favorite, the Google Pixel ad with Giannis Antetokounmpo and Amy Schumer. It opens up saying, "For years, our phones have captured our memories. Now it's time to fix them."
I can erase my exes?
And then you see a family erasing an old guy in a Speedo from their beach photo. You've got Amy Schumer erasing her exes. And then Giannis jumps in.
Giannis, what about that dunk in the third quarter? What dunk?
Slayed me. Absolutely fell about the place. Loved it. But before we round out the top three, I do want to give an honorable
We may not
mention.
have just a warning, we may not have time for the top three because we got to go at 11:58.
All right. Did you see the Nicolay Law commercial, though?
I think I might have missed that one. I feel like my top one was Ben Affleck in serving coffee.
Oh, Ben Affleck with coffee. That was a good one. But Nicolay Law is a local law firm that bought a local spot right at the end. And I think they're really coming for David Gruber as far as being the most TV advertised. So go back and check that one out. That's worth it. But for me, it was a photo finish at the end. My number 2 is the dog food commercial for Farmer's Dog. This one just slayed me.
Hey there.
You get to watch this little girl grow up with her chocolate lab puppy as she goes off to college, gets married, starts a family, and I'm sorry, but you're not allowed to make me cry on a Monday morning. And my big winner for the night, Michelob Ultra upstaging both Bud Light and Molson Coors with this lovingly crafted Caddyshack tribute with Serena Williams playing golf against Brian Cox, who plays Logan Roy on Succession. And we also get to see Tony Romo do his best Bill Murray impression at the end of this one.
Dusty, I'm going to have to let you go, unfortunately, but thank you so much for joining us today. We will post all of this, and we'll also post links for the lead balloon, which has just got nominated. Thank you for joining us, and we'll have you back soon.
Thanks for having me. Take care, guys.
You are never far away from your favorite radio station. We're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app. And if you missed your favorite show or game, listen to a podcast of it anytime on the app or our website.
Sorry that went so fast.
No, it always does.
If we didn't have, we have back-to-back guests all day. And so that was just, I couldn't squeeze you anywhere else besides here.
You were great, Dusty.
But you were great.
You
were excellent. I wish we would have been able to do everything you had planned.
Oh, of course. No, happy to do it, guys. Anytime.
All right. Well, we'll have you back soon.
Take care. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.
Bye.
Delighted to have you join. Call in and be a part of our discussion right here on the networks of Civic Media.
Don't you wish your life came with a warning app?
That dog does not want to be petted.
Well, life doesn't always give you time to change the outcome, but prediabetes does. Take the 1-minute test today at doihaveprediabetes.org. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
You are listening to WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266 DR Waukesha, always streaming on the Civic Media app.
This is CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
I'm Steve Kathan. Still a lot of mystery over the weekend. U.S. military shootdowns of 3 unidentified objects. The most recent has the attention of Michigan Representative Elissa Slotkin.
They chose to shoot it down over Lake Huron so that we could have a chance of collecting what it was. We do not know what it is right now.
CBS News Pentagon correspondent David Martin tells us some adjustments were made after the military downed that Chinese spy balloon off South Carolina.
You don't want to scramble jets every time you pick up a bird or a piece of flying trash on your radar. So they were deliberately calibrated to screen all that stuff out. But now they've changed the calibration and they're starting to pick up these much smaller objects.
Overseas, a 40-year-old girl was rescued from earthquake rubble today in southern Turkey, but the UN says it's turning more of its attention to getting food and shelter to survivors who lost everything. CBS's Imtiaz Tayyab.
It's a tragedy that has turned grief into rage.
So this used to be your home?
Yeah. For Arif Sinikoglu, he doesn't have time to be angry. As we stand on what used to be his family's home, he says he's too busy looking for loved ones.
We have found our grandmother here yesterday, but we cannot find our grandfather.
You will not stop until you find your grandfather?
Yeah, of course. We'll dig with our hands.
Major protests today in Israel.
Tens of thousands of Israelis gathered outside Parliament here in Jerusalem to protest the government's plan to overhaul the judicial system. They say the plan will weaken the Supreme Court and destroy Israel's democracy. It's also seen as a conflict of interest for Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, who is on trial for corruption. Robert Berger, CBS News, Jerusalem.
Flint, Michigan has lifted a three-day boil water advisory following the discovery last week of a break in a 24-inch transmission line. Kansas City fans love their Chiefs after yesterday's Super Bowl win.
I'm feeling wonderful. I was definitely scared. Of course, Patrick Mahomes, he's a trooper. I mean, ankle bad and everything, and he's still coming back and killing.
Quarterback Patrick Mahomes was the MVP of the game. The 38-35 come-from-behind win over Philadelphia. CBS's Steve Futterman on hand for the game.
The Chiefs certainly are the dominant team right now in the NFL. They've been in 3 of the last 4 Super Bowls. They've won 2 of the last 4 Super Bowls, and they have a great young team led by Patrick Mahomes. He is just 27, and he appears right now to be the best quarterback in the NFL.
And checking Wall Street right now, the Dow is up 287 points. This is
The Shaw 101 FM, your fix for progressive talk. From Muskego to Milwaukee, always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane McNair. Here's what you need to know. 2 more UW branch campuses have low enrollments after the UW system absorbed their campuses 5 years ago. Faculty and students at UW Washington County and Waukesha campuses are frustrated with the lack of support from UW Milwaukee. Most branch campus faculty and instructional staff are earning less than those with the same jobs at the main campus, according to the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel. The drop in enrollment numbers and the news about the UW Richland campus ending in-person classes this spring as both students and faculty worried about the future of their branch campuses. A chef who grew up cooking and eating Hmong dishes with his family in Port Edwards, Wisconsin, is now a semifinalist for the James Beard Awards Best Chef in the Midwest. Ye Vang now runs the Union Hmong Kitchen in Minneapolis. Finalists for the James Beard Award announced March 29th. Awards given out June 5th in Chicago. I'm Jane McNair. This is Civic Media News.
Hey everybody, how we doing? I'm Charlie Barons, inviting you to join me Saturdays and or Sundays at noon. It's a horse apiece, whatever you decide. We're doing the Cripes Cast, where we talk to people for and or from the Midwest, and it's more fun than a 6-pack of Jolly Good. Okay, the pride of Random Lake, that Jolly Good is. Anyway, it's on your Civic Media station and the Civic Media app. And do me a favor, tell your folks I says hi. Okay, real good.
From the kennel to the coop, whatever the season, Fleet Farm has everything to keep your animals happy and healthy. From training your pup to sit season, to mastering those retrieval skills season. From clipping your horse for competition season, to keeping the backyard birds well-fed season. And of course, loving your pets like family season. There's a reason people say, if Fleet Farm doesn't have it, you don't need it. Because we have it all. Fleet Farm.
Built for real life.
Up North News Radio is Wisconsin's new choice for progressive talk about important state issues, from the team that brings you the news through social media, newsletters, and here on the radio. I'm Pat Kreitlow. Join me weekday mornings from 6 to 8 a.m.
Uh-oh, Brad's buzzed.
Oh, yeah?
Yeah, he's starting with the woots. Good thing is, he knows when he's buzzed.
Know your buzzed warning signs? Call for a ride when it's time to go home. Buzz driving is drunk driving. A message from NHTSA and the Ad Council.
The Shaw 101 FM, Brookfield's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUK Radio.
As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Bry is an independent product and has a joint sales agreement with Civic Media. Enjoy.
You must hate trying to converse with me then, because all I do is text.
And that's why I call you.
Jane is a forager of funny tunes that are tangentially connected to the topic at hand. Just never turn Civic Media off.
Just have us on, all the time.
Tell Alexa, just keep it going.
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristin Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin! Hello, Wisconsin. Welcome to the noon hour, the lunch hour of the show. We have a great show, great hour lined up at 12:30. Cary, Spivak, and Daphne Chen, who are investigative reporters for Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, are going to be joining us to talk about a report that they put out last month that was on a landlord you probably haven't heard of before. And it's someone who had over 700 different units by the time he did retire, but 6,800 different claims filed as far as bad environments and evictions and everything. And so we are going to be talking to them about that report and kind of just the underbelly of bad landlords in Milwaukee and what that can do to a neighborhood, what that can do to a community. And so I'm very much looking forward to that. But now we are joined by Arnold. Say your last name, Arnold.
Cifax.
Hold on. Are we up? Great. Arnold Cifax. Great to meet you.
Good to meet you as well.
And so I'm very excited to talk about this because Jane and I have had a couple different guests here to talk about human trafficking in the past.
Mm-hmm.
You are the first man that we have had on to talk about human trafficking and sex trafficking. And that is because you were actually involved in a program called HEMAD. Is it pronounced HEMAD? HEMAD. And so tell everyone what HEMAD is.
HEMAD stands for Human Trafficking Education to men and boys for the purpose of eradicating the demand for traffickers to pull women, boys, girls, just everyone.
And so as a campaign, how does it work? Is it advertisements? Is it like how are you reaching men?
Good question. HEMAD is actually under the auspices of the Conversions Resource Center, which is a center that's geared towards assisting women to get back on track after they leave prison. It actually helps them as well with trauma. And it's kind of a trauma center for women that have been trafficked as well as women that are transitioning. With this organization, Dr. Debbie Lassen and myself and several others came up with the idea of creating something to educate men on this, because we don't have a lot of men involved in this, because it's not really seen as a tremendously big issue on that end. But we have found that it is a tremendous issue. And the issues are because we're unaware that sex trafficking, it's not, let me put it this way. Some believe that, like in Vegas, there is sex being offered. Okay, and that's a business. We're not talking about women that are involved in things like that. We're talking about those who have been coerced or forced into this. Those that are under the age of 16 and told they have to do this, and their trafficker kind of romances them, or they might push them into doing it. And it's usually hitting people who are in terrible situations, like runaways or people who are destitute. And sometimes those that are coming over from other countries and they don't have any other way, and they're being tricked into it. And then there are those that are just extremely vulnerable in nice areas. Okay, it's not always the terrible areas where you're pulling people out of there. But this is happening everywhere. It's happening here in Wisconsin in all 72 counties. And because of that, we wanted to get the word out, not only to just boys and girls in high schools, things of that nature, but also to men that are out there realizing that this is a multi-billion-dollar organization.
And because, as we come off the heels of the Super Bowl, I think one thing a lot of people don't realize is the amount of
human trafficking that goes into supplying people
to Arizona yesterday. And so your partner was Debbie was there, right?
Yes, she was there along with several others. The Daughters of Destiny, I believe. I can't really think of the name of the organization, but they have kind of gathered to go out there to do just that. And what they do is find people who have been placed in that really want to get out and no other way. So they have a collaboration not only with the officers that are there, but also with the FBI. And what they try to do is find ways of getting them safely away from their traffickers. And they have been successful over the years. Super Bowl is a time for celebrating this fighting or this battle of men out there on the field. And it seems like the game, who wins, who loses, is really the big piece. But the reality is any type of activity that involves a large group of people, you're going to have traffickers there as well. Traffickers are not your pimps with the big hats and the high heel shoes. Okay. Traffickers are the ones in business suits because it's a multi-billion-dollar business, and they are selling girls, boys, kids. And some of the biggest transactions take place at events like the Super Bowl.
Yeah.
We're talking to Arnold
Cifax, a board member and leader of HEMAD, of the HEMAD campaign, which asks men to take a stand against human trafficking. And so how did you find yourself involved in this?
Well, this is really interesting because I've been working with Dr. Debbie Lassiter with her organization for years, and just trying to assist, trying to help, trying to find financing to assist her in helping women that are transitioning, and to also help them with trauma and things of that nature. So being on the board was kind of a plus because I can talk with philanthropic organizations that have the same mindset. And ideally, we want to be more of an upstream thinker to find ways of not waiting for the problem to happen, but finding ways of trying to cure it. With that in mind, she thought this HEMAD piece would be great to educate men. And she wanted a face for that was not a woman, so that we can actually go in there as men, as males, face to face, just clear and I'm really trying to watch my words here.
Well, you can't curse, so otherwise we're pretty loose here.
Sometimes men will see this as that's really not to say that it's a woman's thing, but I don't believe the push is as strong, woman and man. And maybe it's the society that we live in. Maybe it's because of where we are. But man to man, I can go no holds barred on them, and tell them, okay, this is serious and this is why. It hit me back then when I first got involved with this, when HEMAD first became an actual program. When I began to think about my own children, my grandchildren, my aunts, my uncles, and their kids, and just women in general, because I thought it was strictly women that are being trapped. Well, I come to find out that it's not just women, but it's also men, it's also boys, it's also girls. It's a lot of people, and everyone is hit by this in every neighborhood, in every county. And it doesn't make a difference again if you're in the suburbs, in rural areas, everywhere it's being hit. And what we're trying to do is to educate men what to look for and to have them take a pledge to say that if I see something, I'm going to say something. But also to give them education if you want to go a little bit deeper to find out. So how do I recognize this? How do I see these things? And what exactly is involved in the education of human trafficking? And so with that, we kind of encourage men. We don't get an awful lot of men jumping on board to say, I need a deep dive in this. But we do get some, and the some that we do get, they're on the ground and they're moving and they're letting their peers know and their circles. And so we've hit well over 12 different states, 4 different countries. We just had another country give us a call to say, we'd like to do this as well. We started off trying to get about 300 or 400 people to take this pledge. It ended up on the first day that we did that, we got 3,000 men to take the pledge.
Wow.
We went from there the following year. We wanted to double it. We got 6,000 men to take the pledge. And to date, as of today, we have over 65,000 men who have taken this pledge in 7 different, 4 different countries, 12 different states, and it's still growing. It's still growing.
Because the goal originally was 75,000. So you moved the goalpost?
So we haven't hit that just yet, but we are still moving for that 75,000. Hasn't gotten there just yet. But it's not just for November kickoff. It's all year round. It has moved from being a particular campaign to being a movement.
Yeah.
And this movement, the importance of it is to make change, is to get those who are able to make the change hear us. And of course, that comes through numbers. It comes through men taking that pledge. And that's going to say, hey, listen, we've got over 65,000 men taking this pledge. We need to really make some moves on strengthening some policies, making some things a little bit easier, and understanding that this is here. And it's not just out there. It's not next door or should I say down the street. It is next door.
Yeah.
And it could be in your house or in your family, and you just may not be aware of it. Again, trafficking has to do with coercion and force. It doesn't have to do with someone saying, I want to do this. And it's hitting the LGBTQ community. It's hitting runaways. It's hitting everyone.
Absolutely.
And so we want to let men know that we can have a part in this.
So we were going to take a quick break, but when we come back, I know Jane has a question, but I also want to hear more about what that education actually looks like and how, in your experience so far, how men are receiving it. Okay. As far as if there's a little bit of denial at first or kind of what that's like. But our guest this segment is Arnold Cifax, who's a board member and leader of the HEMAD Campaign, which asks men to take a stand against human trafficking. Stick with us. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Here's your updated forecast.
There's a lot that glows. Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Bry and Jane Madnair. We are talking to Arnold Cifax, who is the board member and leader of HEMAD Campaign, which asks men to take a stand against human trafficking. And Jane, I know you had a question.
I do, Arnold. I can only imagine that there's some kind of pushback because there have to be some men who believe that I'm paying for this.
She's saying that there's men who give pushback because they're saying I'm paying for this.
She wouldn't do this if she didn't want to do it, or he wouldn't do this if he wouldn't want to do it. It's a business transaction. We're all adults here. Everything is fine. How do you address that with these men who want to push back against the fact that some of these people are being forced to do this?
Well, generally, we try to let them know that this is not like a legal thing. If you go to your bachelor party or whatever, and you have these women coming over and they pay XYZ dollars for this, for them to come and do their lap dance or whatever else, letting them know that there are some women that are in this and they were not forced or coerced to be involved in this. What I'm speaking to are those women who have been coerced and forced into this lifestyle. They have traffickers that have told them that this is what you need to do. So what I try to explain to men is that we're not talking about legal. We're talking about the illegal women and men that are involved in this, that have been forced into this for whatever reason, and regardless of the circumstances, that it is not right. And to express to them and let them know that these people that are involved in sex trafficking, they could very well be part of your own family, and trying to really express to them that it is important that we recognize that this is an evil. This is a travesty. This is something that is not a good thing. And yeah, I know I've heard men say, hey, well, we paid our money to have this person come over and to do this, that, and the other. And I don't want to say that's fine, but I will say if that's a legitimate organization that's doing this, we need to do a deeper dive to find out, okay, are these people being trafficked? We just need to be in the mindset that the possibility is there that these are not people that are willing participants in this act. And so that is kind of what I try to give to men, that give some pushback on it, just to let them know that this is a travesty. It is a crime.
And so with that, what are some, as far as the education goes, because I'm sure there's more than we can cover in the next 5 minutes, but what are some of the signs that you tell men to look for as far as being able to be alert and aware of someone who might be there by force, whether that's physical, mental, psychological, or someone who is there who's as a sex worker, or someone who's there because this is their job?
In most cases, you're going to see some signs of bruises. You're going to see some signs in their character that might reflect not just shyness, but paranoia. I mean, there are a variety of things to look for, and without getting too deep in the weeds, we try to bring those that really want to know into the office to give them that full training, because there are different types of traffickers. You need to know what kind of trafficker is trafficking this person, and that will reflect why they respond certain ways. If you see an older man, a young girl out somewhere, and it seems like there's something that's not quite right, we don't say jump over there, get involved, and start questioning. We say keep an eye on it, and if it looks like something that may be, off kilter, there are some numbers that you can call. There are some places that you can contact, and the hotline that's out there. You can call them and say, "Well, I am suspicious of this particular act because it doesn't look right, it doesn't sound right." Um, and I'm not talking about grandpa out with his niece. I'm talking about something that might look a little bit different. And there are some things that we try to educate them on a face to face if they want to get a little bit deeper. Of course, I can't tell you everything to look for because we're not the only ones listening, right? Trust me, traffickers are listening as well. Like, okay, so what are they looking for? So we need to not do that because they're going to know this. So it's kind of difficult to really give you this is what you look for over the radio. It would be a lot easier on a face-to-face, or you can actually go to the site, or you can send an email also to the Conversions Resource Center site. When you go to the Conversions Resource Center site and go right under HEMAD, you can actually email myself or the administrator that takes care of the emails and ask those hard questions, and even ask for what to look for. If I have seen something, in my neighborhood that doesn't look right, this is what you can do. These are the numbers you can call.
Absolutely. And so where, with the minute that we have left, what's the website that people should go to? And we'll put it in today's show notes as well.
You should go to conversionsresourcecenter.org, and it's spelled completely out, no spaces. And then you can go right to HEMAD, which is on that site as well. You hit that. And then we encourage all men to take that pledge that's on there.
You're only 10,000 away from the goal.
Right. And if they want to take that pledge, they can do that online, or I can read it real quick and they can raise their hand right while I'm speaking, and you can insert your name. You can say, I and your name pledge to eradicate or to educate men on the importance of ending human trafficking. We of HEMAD pledge to work to eradicate the business of human trafficking for our women, our men, and for the world. It is my duty not to stand by and let the industry of human trafficking benefit off the backs of the innocent. Therefore, I pledge my heart, my body, my mind, my soul, my spirit to eradicate an industry that seeks to destroy life rather than build it up.
Well, here to that. Arnold Cifax, thank you so much for joining us today. This is very enlightening. We will put all of that information in today's notes. Stick around. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Always stay humble and kind.
Hey, Cary.
Hey, how you doing?
Good. How are you doing?
Okay.
Okay. Are you at the office?
Yeah, I'm in one of those conference rooms.
Nice.
One of the 50 conference rooms we have.
Yeah, that are usually empty.
Yeah, there's only 20 people here, so
All right. Is Daphne still joining?
Has she signed on yet, or?
I don't see her yet, but
Okay.
she
Yeah, I
accepted.
just talked to her 10 minutes ago.
Okay, let's make sure. All right. Well, hopefully she'll be here any minute. But then it's pretty straightforward. I mean, I think I'm going to start with a little rough overview of what the report said and introduce you guys. And then we can start with Curtis and what it was like to actually go into some of these properties. I would like to talk about Barada now that he seems like the next villain, whether or not I call him that.
Yeah, his stuff is, he has issues. Well, he has the Attorney General's lawsuit against him, yeah.
Yeah. But then I think trying to the bigger picture of the fact that landlords can just do this and like the laws that got loosened and any potential to try to strengthen them and protect renters.
Oh, sure. Okay.
So, but yeah, but it'll be pretty straightforward. I reread it this morning and like I said, I was like, oh my God, this is so infuriating. All right, so we'll come back in about a minute and a half.
Yeah, Daphne's not on yet, is she?
I don't see her, and I just checked my Teams to see if she messaged me.
Where working people come to talk. Weeknights, 8 to 10 p.m. right here on WAUK 540 AM, 101 FM, The Shaw.
Pat, I feel like all the women we have on our show, like our co-hosts, always get too famous for us, and then
I would just like to think that we are fertile ground from which they can blossom. We are the manure from which they spring.
the manure from which they spring. I was gonna say holding fort, but I think your metaphor is way better.
Up North News Radio with Pat Krylo airs at its new time from 6 to 8 a.m. weekdays across Civic Media.
Being a father is an honor, a challenge, a duty, a celebration, and a testimony. I want to be legendary for you because I found everything to live for.
That's dedication. Visit fatherhood.gov to hear more. Brought to you by the U.S. Department of Health and Human Services and the Ad Council.
Kristin Bry. No matter where you're listening across the Civic Media Network or on the Civic Media app, thank you for spending your lunch hour with us. And a quick reminder that if you miss any part of today's show, you can always listen to it as a podcast, which you can find at asgoeswisconsin.com/listen or wherever you find podcasts, Spotify, Apple, Stitcher, etc. And so moving on to our guest this half hour. So last month, Milwaukee Journal Sentinel published an investigative report on a landlord who, over 20 years, became the second largest evictor in the city. He racked up roughly 6,800 building code violations and prompted multiple lawsuits and complaints to state and local officials. But what they also exposed is that this isn't an isolated case. And so here to talk more about the impact of landlords, what they can do to communities, our guests this half hour are Daphne Chen, who is a data and investigations reporter for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and Cary Spivak, who is an investigative reporter for the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, who focuses on white-collar crime, gambling, landlords, slumlords, and other issues. Welcome to the show, guys.
Good to be here.
So I guess let's start with the focal point of the report. Who is Curtis Hoff?
Curtis Hoff is a name that a lot of people didn't know before last month. Even somebody like Cary, who has been reporting on landlords in Milwaukee for a very long time. He is the former owner of Anchor Properties and the group of LLCs that owned hundreds of properties across Milwaukee, mostly in Black neighborhoods and low-income neighborhoods. And it's the company that sort of quietly amassed this rental empire and became the second largest evictor in the city. But very much a low-key person here in Milwaukee.
And that was what was wild reading the report is despite these 6,800 building code violations and other lawsuits, that when you guys started reporting on this, Mayor Johnson didn't even know who he was, and he was on Common Council for how long? As far as no one knew him.
Yeah, that actually was somewhat surprising. You'd think the mayor and former alderman would know who he is. He was known by the building inspectors. We knew who he was, but he didn't get a lot of publicity because you had some other, albeit smaller, slumlords who were getting more attention, like Mohammed Chowdhury and Elijah Mohammed Rashid. Maybe their stuff was more outrageous, but for whatever reason, they were getting more publicity. And Barada, of course, I don't know if we'd call him a slumlord, but he has 8,000 to 9,000 units. So, and he was growing and still is growing at an amazing pace. So all that allowed Hoff to kind of remain in the shadows. And Hoff never went out of his way to get out of the shadows. He didn't even name the company after himself. He used the A names the reason he used that, as we noted, was back in the day, if you were in eviction court, they would call the companies by alphabetical order of the plaintiffs. So that's why he came up with Anchor, Aardvark, etc. But overall, he was just pretty low key. He's not big on the social scene, not big politically, and he just kept out of the way, and did that until we really wrote him up, which unfortunately was after he sold his stuff, though.
I know that is, and now is retired in Phoenix in an almost $1 million house, which is also infuriating. But so paint the picture, because I think, Cary, was this one of the days I feel like I was in the newsroom and you were just explaining having gone to one, I don't know if it was one of his or just a unit in general, as far as being in some of these apartments and how the inhumane condition that they were in.
Oh yeah, some of them are just awful. You'll see, the torn windows and screens, and you might be a second story or third story, and there could be little kids there, holes in the walls. You may not have hot waters, all outlets that don't work, or then you'll see, Daphne knows this better than I do, they'll overload the outlets, which is causing a fire hazard. Fire alarms that may or may not be there. There was this was a Hoff unit that we went to where you had 2 units, and if I remember right, if both doors open, it blocked off one unit from escaping, which would be god awful in a fire. You kind of get hardened after seeing it so much, but still, it's pretty bad. I mean, it's just, there's no other way to describe it.
Daphne, obviously, Cary, you've been doing this for years, but Daphne, was it something you've also been doing this for, because you wrote a report back in 2021 as far as being a part of the investigative team with the taxpayers basically funding slumlords to not causing electrical fires and not fixing some of these things. And so have you grown accustomed yet to having to see some of these awful conditions, or is it still something that's a little shocking to walk into?
No, and thanks for mentioning that, because it's a great testament to all the reporting on landlords that a lot of reporters here do really well at the Journal Sentinel. But yeah, it still was really shocking to see these conditions, especially when little children are living in these conditions. And you really get the sense that whoever is renting these out really does not care to make it habitable or safe. Because we're talking about giant holes on the porches, moms describing having to pull kids off of porches and say, you can't play there because you're going to fall and hurt yourself. We've had women talk about having their PTSD triggered because they can't sleep at night because of the sounds of how many rodents there are scrabbling around in the walls. Moms crying, starting to cry while they interview with us and just walking onto the porch so that their kids don't see them. The conditions and how dangerous they were and the effect that they had on the families was really stark to see.
We're talking to Daphne, Chen, and Cary Spivak, investigative reporters from Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, on their reporting on landlords, a specific landlord Curtis Hoff, but also landlords in general who are exploitative. Is that the right word to use as far as how, or predatory? And so, can you explain a little bit more about the cycle of both the demographics and the cycle of people who find themselves living in not only anchor properties, but there are, I mean, I think what part of this report was also listing out the 25 top evictors in Milwaukee. And what are some of the reasons why people you've interviewed can't get out of this cycle of living in a slumlord's apartment?
Well, one, you just mentioned the evictions. These guys do not charge cheap rent. People are paying $800, $1,000, $1,200 for a rental. And you can go in a lot of other neighborhoods and get a much nicer place for the same money. But if you've been evicted, it makes it very tough for you to find a new place. Even if you've been evicted, sued for eviction, and won the case and you were not evicted, unless you get the judge to take your name to seal the record, that eviction stays on your record. Landlords routinely go to CCAP and they check before they'll rent to you whether you have any evictions. A lot of landlords will not rent to you if you have an eviction. Hoff and some others will rent to you. And they kind of got you locked because you have an eviction. You know it's going to be very tough for you to move out. Maybe you'll complain about the hole in the wall or this and that, and they don't come running out to fix it. But what are you going to do? You can't find another place because you have that eviction hanging over your head. And that stays on, I believe, for 2 years unless you get the judge to dismiss it.
And just to clarify, it is even in the case where the eviction doesn't go through, but even the attempt to evict you goes on your record.
And that's all they look at. They don't open up the file. You'd have to make a motion to the judge to seal the file. And actually, I'm wrong. I think they stay on pretty much forever unless you get it taken off. So you'd have to get the judge to seal it. If you have an attorney or a legal aid or legal action, they'll do that. But it means another trip to the courthouse, which if you're the working poor isn't the easiest thing in the world. But, and you probably don't even realize it. Unless you have a lawyer or went to legal aid or legal action, you're not even going to realize you could get it off your record.
And to further that comes the reporting of these terrible conditions, right? And that the underreporting of how bad some of these apartments are is because people are afraid of the retribution of getting evicted if they report on their landlord, correct?
Yeah, we detailed a couple of cases where tenants strongly felt that they were retaliated against, that basically as soon as they reported the issues to the city, to the Department of Neighborhood Services, which is what you're supposed to do, that they were evicted within weeks after that. And we found about 40 cases just looking at the data. It's retaliation is very difficult to prove, and it's not something that the city enforces well, but it is illegal. And that just kind of compounds the problems because issues aren't getting reported. People are afraid to be homeless. And on top of that, like even when they do get reported, we found that enforcement really was a little bit lacking, that, things would be fixed supposedly, but in a shoddy manner. And the problems would just continue.
Is the focal point of the big piece, but he is not the only property owner. Now he's retired and he's sold off his property. So who are some of the people kind of on the watch list as far as that are continuing these practices? Like, who did he sell his properties to?
A lot of his properties went to out-of-state landlords, and there's still questions on them. There's been a big influx of out-of-state landlords buying up properties in Wisconsin, in the Milwaukee area in specific, in the past few years. Some of them are pretty awful. Some of them not so bad. I don't know if any of them are really great, but not all are awful. But a lot are being sold on that. It's a good business, a profitable business, especially if you're not putting money into the properties. You're still getting $1,000 a month or so, And if you're not, and maybe you bought the place, definitely, I'm sure, well under 100, probably closer to 40 or 50. It's not that hard to make money, especially if you're not going to care for it. Now, if you're going to put money into the place and fix it up, you can still make money, probably just not as much. But I've known some landlords, including some of the other staters, who appear to be fixing up the places. They're not, AAA good, but they're definitely livable, and they're making money. So it is possible to make money and be an honest or decent landlord.
So when we come back, I want to talk more about kind of the history of how we got here, that landlords have as much power as they do. Because I know, Cary, even just last week, you wrote an article on Barada, the number one evictor right now, basically scaring off aldermen off his back. And so there's a certain amount of power landlords have, and I think it dates back to a certain governor and how things and regulations got rolled back for landlords. And so I want to talk a little bit more about the history of that when we come back, and also what could change either legally, locally, or on the state level to strengthen tenant rights. But we are talking to Cary Spivak and Daphne Chen, investigative reporters from Milwaukee. Basically, you're both doing great. This is so interesting and so
Thanks.
is there anything you want besides what I outlined as far as what I want to ask next? Is there anything else you want to make sure we talk about?
I don't think so. I think these are really good questions, honestly. What about you, Cary?
No, I think that's pretty good. Offhand, I can't think of anything you're missing.
I know, I think Raquel just this morning posted something that Governor Evers wants to add this. I don't know what the political will be to do that, but we can at least mention that as far as something. But I think talking about the background as far as 2011 and when all of this started to change as far as the state imposing, or I guess rolling back.
Yeah, I just punched up that story.
Something great in the 40s and 50s, and getting your retirement
of course,
savings
because
on track is
aren't
no
there a
different.
bunch of legislators that are
retirement.org, and in 3 minutes you'll
Yeah, when me and Mary Spikuza did it, we came up with about 20% of all the legislators were landlords, including Robin Voss, the speaker, who back then had 23 properties worth about $4 million, mainly in Whitewater, the college town.
Alzheimer's Association and the Ad Council.
All right. Well, we got about a minute until we come back.
Okay.
West winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Tonight, lows level off around 30. Overcast skies. Tomorrow, scattered rain showers likely. High temperatures reach up to 48. Mid-40s Wednesday, turning much cooler Thursday, with highs in the upper 20s and snow possible. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 39 degrees.
The Shaw 101 FM, New Berlin's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
I left the pain
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Bry. We are talking to Cary Spivak and Daphne Chen, investigative reporters for Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, about their report from last month, and I guess really spanning back years as far as how long they've been talking about landlords in Milwaukee and specifically predatory landlords. And I guess broadly, how is this legal? Like, how are there so many of these guys, because it seems like a lot of them are guys, that this don't have any ramifications for treating people so poorly?
Well, there's a couple of things. Back in around 2010, the legislature, which at the time, stories that I did with Mary Spicuzza, had 20% or so of the legislators were in fact landlords, including Robin Voss, who is a very large landlord.
Wait, Cary. How many? What?
About 20% of all the legislators were landlords. That was back then. I haven't checked it since then, but my guess is it's still the same. And including Robin Voss, who at the time had 23 properties mostly in Whitewater, worth about $4 million. And that's when, in about 2010 or so, the legislature passed a series of laws that limited the powers of tenants and increased the powers of landlords. And they, among other things, they limited the amount of fines, where the cities used to be able to continually double the fines and keep inspecting. I believe they outlawed just those surprise targeted inspections that would be real popular in a college town. You would just say, we're going to do this block because, that's where the kids live. But you can do lower income neighborhoods, all that type of thing. So it was kind of the landlord's legislature, and they opened, there were bad landlords before that, but those actions made it tougher for the cities and for tenants to police the landlords.
And that rolls down, right? Since that's the state law, it's not even like the Common Council in Milwaukee can make laws to get around that.
It's very difficult. I mean, there are things that the city can do and probably should be doing better, but the state laws are really, really restrictive. I mean, one of the things to add to what Cary was saying was that, Ashanti Hamilton, who was president of the Common Council, told us a lot of the landlords that they dealt with that were negligent, they just kind of pay the fines as part of the cost of doing business, because the state also limits how much the fine is. So when you were asking, how can this be legal? A lot of that equation is just because the enforcement power is so weak.
We started off this show talking about the derailment that just happened in Ohio, and that was the exact same phrase as far as the companies that are profit seeking. There's just they bake that into their budget if they'll have to pay some fines, but it's cheaper to continue to do the unsafe things that they're doing that lead to poisonous materials spreading everywhere than to just incur the fine. And it sounds like it's wild in the same show to hear the exact same thing talking about slumlords. And it's just, it's easier to pay the fine than to fix the building.
Absolutely.
And there's one other thing too, is tenants are afraid of being evicted. Many tenants are afraid of complaining because even though it's ridiculous, even though it's illegal, they're afraid that the response will be an eviction. And what's gotten very popular in recent years is the 28-day month-to-month lease, where you used to have more and more people signing year-long leases. Now, both around UWM, Marquette, and then in the poor neighborhoods, the month-to-month is real popular. So you don't even need a reason. You just say, I'm not renewing your lease. So tenants are afraid to call the DNS or authorities.
So as far as, speaking of tenants, because I know part of the report was also trying to provide resources for people who, if you are getting evicted, what to do. And so what is available for people as far as resources, organizations, groups, rights?
Yeah, I mean, Milwaukee does have, they created kind of like what's supposed to be a one-stop shop for like tenants who need help. It's called the Rental Housing Resource Center, and all the sort of legal organizations, government agencies, like nonprofits that deal with landlord-tenant issues are all kind of centralized here. So that would probably be the best first stop. And there are also some more like grassroots organizations, like there's this Milwaukee Autonomous Tenants Union. They're more so kind of a grassroots volunteer organization trying to help tenants organize. So there are resources out there, and they have helped some of the tenants that we wrote about, file lawsuits and things like that. But as far as rights go, it is important for tenants to know that, they have the right to live in a safe, clean space. And especially, if they're paying rent, that's part of the landlord's deal to uphold. And so, if that's not happening, like one right that is afforded by law is rent abatement or rent withholding. And it's not something that's popularized very much by the city. But theoretically, if the landlord is not fixing things that need to be fixed, you can withhold part of your rent through and pay it instead to the city of Milwaukee, and the landlord will not get that money until the fixes are made. But this is kind of a difficult process to go through. It requires approval from the city, but I just say this to say that there are options and renters do have rights.
And so briefly, because we only have 2 minutes left, I guess, is there solutions in reporting this that may not be available right now, but as far as what could help this, is it only from at the state level?
I would say that is the biggest thing. Like if you ask experts in housing, they say the gold standard is to basically allow municipalities to once again do systemic rental inspections, proactive rental inspections. But barring that, just at the city level, stuff like I just mentioned, like popularizing that rent abatement program could be really helpful. I know the city of Racine is kind of kicking that off as well in their city. And also just the Common Council, they've been debating for a long time now about things like requiring landlords to have insurance, which experts feel could really help renters, because then when things like fires happen, they really get investigated and we find out if neglect is the root cause of things like that.
Absolutely. Well, I just want to take this opportunity to say thank you for the investigative reporting that you both do, and a plug to be a subscriber to the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, because this is the kind of reporting that they do so well. And so go read this. I will link it to today's show notes because it is unbelievable reporting. Thank you so much, Cary and Daphne, for spending time with us and breaking the story down further.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right. Well, that'll do it for the noon hour. When we come back, we will be talking about more with the elementary school that is doing a little outdoor work. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
You better call if you're interested. Trailer for rent. Trailer for rent. Trailer for rent. Trailer.
Hey everybody, how we doing? I'm Charlie Barons, inviting you to join me Saturdays and/or Sundays at noon. It's a horse apiece, whatever you decide. We're doing the Cripes Cast, where we talk to people for and/or from the Midwest, and it's more fun than a six-pack of Jolly Good. Okay, the pride of Random Lake, that Jolly Good is. Anyway, it's on your Civic Media station and the Civic Media app. And do me a favor, tell your folks I says hi. Okay, real good.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
You are listening to WAUK 540 AM Jackson, W266 DR Waukesha, always streaming on the Civic Media app.
The
This is CBS News on the Hour, your home for original reporting.
I'm Steve Kathan. The seas have calmed off South Carolina, allowing the search for Chinese spy balloon debris to resume. And CBS's Cammie McCormick tells us there's an effort to get to the most recent unidentified object shot down yesterday.
There are still more questions than answers.
They chose to shoot it down over Lake Huron so that we could have a chance of collecting what it was. We do not know what it is right now.
Michigan Representative Alyssa Slotkin says the recovery could take some time.
There's a joint U.S.-Canadian effort to make sure we keep eyes on that equipment and pick it up, but they're hampered by choppy waters.
The head of NORAD in the U.S. Northern Command says part of the reason for the repeated shoot downs is a heightened alert following that Chinese spy balloon.
Overseas, a 4-year-old girl was pulled alive from earthquake debris in southern Turkey today, but officials say there won't be many more rescues as attention turns to feeding and sheltering the homeless. Samantha Power, the administrator of the U.S. Agency for International Development, tells CBS Mornings getting aid into Syria, also heavily damaged, is not easy.
Syria, of course, has had a much more challenging time. You have the Assad regime in one part of the country, opposition-held territory in another part of the country, and the Russian Federation for a very long time has insisted that there be only one border crossing into northern Syria, and we are trying to have that expanded.
There was a major protest in Israel today as lawmakers began voting on Prime Minister Netanyahu's plans to overhaul the country's judiciary. Some say the measures imperil democracy.
Let me just make sure I can hear you.
To try to protect all that Israel has gained.
Can you hear me?
From,
Yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, now I can hear you. Great. Perfect. All right. So we'll come back. We still have about 5 minutes. So we'll come back at 1:06. And then I'll keep you until 1:18. But I know Jane already emailed over some of the questions, but it's pretty straightforward as far as what the curriculum's like, what the different expertise of the teachers, what the kids, how the kids like it. And so it's like a very fun conversational
Awesome. Cool.
interview.
That sounds good.
All right. And it's Hoyne?
Hoyne, yeah.
Hoyne, great.
Yeah. Awesome.
More doses of Novavax, aiming to extend availability until COVID shots are due to go to the private market later this year.
A parade and rally are planned for Wednesday in Kansas City to honor the Super Bowl champion Chiefs. Fans are still celebrating the thrilling come-from-behind win over the Eagles.
We fought adversity. They thought we was going to give up. You know Mahomes going to come in the clutch every time. He showed adversity every single game. Patrick Mahomes, 1-5.
Patrick Mahomes, the quarterback, taking home his second Super Bowl MVP trophy. Wall Street, right now the Dow is up 308 points.
A progressive voice from Beaver Dam to Kenosha. WAUK 540 AM. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
For Civic Media, I'm Jane Matnair. Here's what you need to know. Foxconn employees at the facility in Mount Pleasant filed a federal class action lawsuit last week, alleging the company regularly shaved time off their timesheets, thus violating federal and state workers' rights laws. The suit also claims Foxconn didn't pay employees bonuses or overtime. The Foxconn Technology Group says in a statement it won't comment on the lawsuit specifics. The plaintiffs are seeking a jury trial. Safe, affordable housing and rental units are a top priority in Governor Evers' 2023-25 budget proposal. The governor is proposing a comprehensive multi-pronged package of initiatives, including renovating existing housing, improving rental unit safety, providing legal aid for evictions, and expanding renter protections. The governor sends his budget proposal to the legislature this week. I'm Jane Matnair. This is Civic Media News.
You know him as the nose tackle for the Green and Gold, 1993 to 1999, and again 2001 to 2003. 125 games, 292 tackles, 7 sacks, and a Super Bowl ring. But there's more to life than stats, and there's more to life than football. You're about to find out. Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, featuring Packers legend Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Monday mornings at 8 on the Shaw and on the Civic Media app.
You've got questions about navigating the healthcare system? Kristin Lyerly helps us find answers and discusses other issues at the intersection of healthcare and politics. Hometown Health, Thursday mornings at 7:30 on Up North News Radio.
Earl Ingram.
I mean, for heaven's sakes,
anybody who's heard Congresswoman Boebert from Colorado and Marjorie Taylor Greene and others, you just have to ask the question, if I'm a Republican, why would I continue to support that foolishness?
Asking the tough questions, searching for the answers we're all looking for. The Earl Ingram Show. Weekday mornings 8 to 11 on Civic Media and on the Civic Media app.
My Shiro always goes the extra mile, stretches every dollar, puts others first. But now it's your time, Mom. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings now at aceretirement.org.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
WAUK 540 AM, New Berlin's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUK.
As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Bry is an independent product and has a joint sales agreement with Civic Media. Enjoy.
You know a lot about drinking beer? I know very little about brewing beer, but it is a science.
Is there ever any danger, Sam, of anything blowing up in my kitchen if I decide to homebrew?
Do you have any scars?
I have a lot of burns, which, have left scars. We deal with a lot of hot liquid.
Moving Wisconsin forward, one joke at a time. This is Kristin Bry with As Goes Wisconsin.
Yada, yada, yada.
Hello, Wisconsin! Hello, Wisconsin! And welcome to the 1 o'clock hour of As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Bry and Jane Madnair. We are going to have a very fun hour after all of the heaviness that...
We covered a lot of ground this morning.
There was a lot of... We need a shower after all of that heaviness. And so I am very excited because this is going to be a very fun guest, a very fun topic, because everyone knows that the best part of elementary school is recess, followed by gym class, and maybe for Jane and I, music class.
Oh, absolutely.
But honestly, as someone who was undiagnosed ADHD, acceptance of hyperactivity, I was inattentive. I spent a lot of time daydreaming when I had to sit in a chair for 8 hours a day. When I heard about this school right around in this part of the woods in Mukwonago, I knew that I wanted to learn more about it. So our guest for this segment is Colleen Coyne, who serves as the principal of Eagleville Elementary Charter School and a 4K coordinator for the Mukwonago Area School District. Welcome to the show, Colleen.
Hi, thanks for having me. It's so great to be here. I'm excited to talk about all the amazing things that are happening at Eagleville. So thank you.
So, because I didn't set it up beyond the tease of recess and gym class, which there's obviously a lot of curriculum, but what is special about Eagleville?
Yeah, Eagleville is a pretty special place, which is why I am excited to share about it and why I love to call it my home away from home. But Eagleville is an environmentally focused charter school. So we are a public charter school in the school district of Wisconsin. I always like to say we have the best of both worlds because we have the resources and support of a large school district, but the flexibility to do things differently because we are a charter school. And our charter specifically, like I said, focuses on environmental education. So that ranges from just the way we practice as a school. We compost daily. Our kids use reduce waste through reusable trays and silverware. They track the amount that they recycle. Just things from, in general, trying to live environmentally friendly and teach students about environmental sustainability and education, to using our space and teaching kids about advocating for their environment outside and the ways that they can be involved in their environment outside. So we are very blessed that we have beautiful grounds. We have a school forest. We also are located right near Jericho Creek in Mukwonago, so our students have access to the creek and have spaces for We currently have a large butterfly garden, and we are converting our vegetable garden into a sensory garden over the course of the next year or two. So our students have the access to that space, and then the way that they use those spaces to learn specifically about environmental education, but also just to utilize that space for learning STEM design, STEM design thinking and the design process. They use those spaces to get creative for reading and writing. And creativity. So it's a combination of the learning about our environment, but also just getting to experience the environment on all aspects that we do. So it's a pretty special place.
It is. I mean, that truly getting to spend that much time outdoors, but it's also, and if you can give some more examples as far as like the taking traditional curriculum and kind of reframing it. So it's still math, it's still science, it's still reading and everything, but it's in through a different lens or even a different environment. And so what are some of the exchanges, if that's the right word, as far as how some of the curriculum is still filling requirements, but it's tailored to the mission of the school?
Yeah. So I think we have tried really hard and continue, I think, to try and grow the ways that we are taking what is the curriculum that we have within the district, and then putting an environmental spin on it. So, in reading and writing, we try to, as much as possible, incorporate environmental text. We just finished our One Book, One School, and we read One Plastic Bag, which is all about how a woman in Gambia started saving her village from plastic bags and the damage they cause. And our kids learned all about that and were inspired by that. So it's just a range of texts, whether they're reading them independently or we're doing it as a school. Kids have turned persuasive essays to focus on the environment, why we should use less straws or different environmental things we could do. They actually have written persuasive essays about things we could do in our environment here. We have an event called Parent Creek Day where they educate parents about it, and that was all from a persuasive writing unit. So it's incorporating those things in there. And then in terms of science and social studies, kids are really just hands-on outside doing things like planting in the butterfly garden, planting things for our sensory garden. We do a lot of community things. One of the other cool things about Eagleville is we're a small school. We only have about 110 students.
Oh, wow.
So kindergarten through sixth grade, they all know each other and work together. So we do a lot of STEM things together. Last year, they learned a little bit about wind power. We were talking about different sources of energy and forces and motion. And then they, in kindergarten through sixth grade, mixed groups had to build wind power cars, and they see how far they could go. So it's things like that that are tying into the standards, the state standards that we follow, but ways to do it creatively so that they can work together, but also incorporating the environmental sustainability pieces we try to focus on.
We're talking to Colleen Coyne, who is the principal of Eagleville Elementary School, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a charter school that is environmentally focused on both with its kids and its curriculum. Jane?
Colleen, just after hearing you talk about the programs, I am firmly convinced now, as someone who's always been mathematically challenged, that if I had been outside and a teacher had said, what are 5 leaves times 3 leaves? And we had been able to show me the leaves, it would have made a big difference because everyone learns so differently, right?
100%. And I think our teachers are constantly trying to think of ways that they can get kids outside doing those types of things, whether it's, there's in a geometry unit and they're outside building shapes from the things they've collected in the school forest, and like, okay, build a square, and they have to run and find the different things from the school forest to build it. Or working on scavenger hunts where they're our kindergartners are identifying literacy and letters through the school forest and things like that. So just as many ways as they can. I think they're constantly trying to incorporate the outdoors and the environment whenever they can.
So as a teaching professional, I'm assuming that you've also taught in more traditional environments than this one.
Yeah, definitely. This is definitely my first time in an environment like this one.
And so can you see tangible differences of how kids learn here versus other places you've taught previously?
I think the biggest difference for me is some of those for lack of a better word, soft skills, employability skills that we see. I think our kids, I think any of the schools in Mukwonago, it is an amazing school district, and kids are getting fantastic education related to the standards. I think where I see something really cool and different in our students is our kids truly are leaders and advocates. They know what it means to problem solve and be creative. I think they're have so many opportunities to practice those skills, teamwork and communication, that those help them to solve challenges later on that make them really successful students, but also just human beings down the road, which is pretty special.
And so, because I found out about you guys through the Milwaukee Journal Sentinel, and so since there's a little bit more press, is there room for, as like if this gains in popularity in Mukwonago, is there room to have a bigger school, or is it something that has to kind of stay capped just because of resources and the size of the school?
We don't have a ton of space to grow. We certainly, depending on the grades, we definitely have some space available. For sure, we currently have a wait list at some grades. So Eagleville is a very cool building. The school itself has been around, I believe we celebrated 172 years this year. So it's been around for quite a bit. And the current building was actually built mostly in the 1930s with an addition in the 1950s. So it's quite an old building.
Yeah.
And because of that, it's very limited in the construction and the size of the building and the changes that we can make to it. And just because of where we sit, we are hesitant to, I think we would have support if we were like, let's go somewhere else and make it a bigger school. The things we are doing are awesome. But just because of the fact that we're using the outdoor space that we're on, it's a little bit hard to grow it, and the building can't get bigger. But we are definitely always looking for new families, and we do have a wait list at some grade levels. And we love to show off what we're doing. So any families that are interested, they should reach out, and I'd love to give them a tour and just tell them more about Eagleville. If you can't tell, I like to talk about Eagleville and what we're doing here. So it'd be great if they wanted to step up by.
Okay, well, I guess my last question is, I feel like this winter isn't a very good example of this, but my question was going to be, what do you guys do in the winter?
Well, we tell kids to bring warm clothes.
Okay.
In all seriousness, we do go out mostly regardless of the weather. But we do snowshoes. So our kids have snowshoes, which is pretty cool. They did get to go out once this year. It was like a small window, like go out today or you're not going to get to go out. We do winter sowing. So our kids just finished winter sowing. So they did the planting and learned about it and made like mini greenhouses. So those plants will eventually be transplanted into our gardens. And then we typically have done maple sugar tapping, which is pretty cool. And that comes up about this time of year. But a lot of it is the indoor thing. So we, some of that one school, one book, talking about some of the other sustainability and like waste reduction things that we can just do as a part of our being versus outside, some of the other aspects of it.
Well, this is so cool. I wish I could have gone to a school like that growing up, because it's incredible. So Colleen Coyne, thank you so much for spending time with us today.
Thank you so much for having me. It was really great to talk with both of you.
Absolutely. And we will put, you can follow Eagleville Charter on Facebook and on Twitter. And so we will put all of that on today's show notes, but check it out and see if there's, I don't know, maybe we can incorporate that in some other school districts. But thank you so much, Colleen.
Absolutely. Have a great day.
You too. Okay. All right. When we come back, Jane has set up a game for us. Teddy versus Riri.
Teddy or Riri.
Teddy or Riri. So play along. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
Ain't got no name, ain't got no fancy education, but I can see right through a powdered face on a painted fool. Let me slip through. Why you trying to hold me back? I'm just trying to move up front, little more this, little less of that. Let me come through. I'm tired of being in the back. I'm just trying to move up front, little more this, little less of that, yeah. They tell me I was born to lose, but I made a good thing out of bad news. Don't worry about people in my face. I hit them with the style and grace, and watch the ankles break. Whoa. I know you wish I knew you.
Hey everybody, how we doing? I'm Charlie Barons, inviting you to join me Saturdays and or Sundays at noon. It's a horse apiece, whatever you decide. We're doing the Cripes Cast, where we talk to people for and or from the Midwest, and it's more fun than a six-pack of Jolly Good. Okay, the pride of Random Lake, that Jolly Good is. Anyway, it's on your Civic Media station and the Civic Media app. And do me a favor, tell your folks I says hi. Okay, real good.
Dueling Tangents with Luke and Brian.
I'm really trying hard not to go insane from the mind screw that is this situation with the I was going to say the GAB, but now it's the WEC, which was audited by the LAB, and then it's now screwed up by the GOP, and we're all SOL. Good for us. Congratulations.
Look at all those acronyms. Yeah.
We're the winners.
Tune in for Dueling Tangents every weekday at 2.
If you can plan barbecues and weddings, you can plan to protect yourself from a natural disaster. Sign up for local alerts, prepare an emergency kit, and make a family communications plan. Get started at ready.gov/plan.
Brought to you by FEMA and the Ad Council.
Missed your favorite show live on air? It's easy to find what you enjoy wherever you listen to podcasts, including Spotify, Apple, and Google Podcasts. And we're always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Sunny skies this afternoon with highs around 46. Winds out of the west 8 to 15 miles an hour. Tonight, lows around 30. Overcast skies tomorrow. Scattered rain showers likely. High of 48. Mid-40s Wednesday. Much cooler Thursday with highs in the upper 20s and snow possible. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Derek Height. Currently, it's 41 degrees.
WAUK 540 AM, Brookfield's choice for news talk radio. Streaming 24/7 at WAUKradio.com.
Shine bright like a diamond. Shine bright like a diamond. Fine light in the beautiful sea. I chose to be happy. You and I.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Bry and Jane Nair. We are back on the no sour, haha, funny power hour, and I think that's where we're going to stay for the rest of the show. We got some goofy stories to, as we said, shower ourselves from the infuriating stories we did the first 2 hours.
Absolutely.
So, last night you and I were texting about the halftime show, and I guess you had seen something on Twitter that sparked a little idea for you.
Yeah, let me just remind you all, remember who Ronnie Jackson is?
No.
Ronnie Jackson is currently a congressman representing Texas's 13th district, but he was the former White House doctor who is nicknamed the Candy Man because of the allegedly generous way he doled out prescription drugs. He also said that then President Donald Trump had incredibly good genes, and if he'd only eaten a little healthier, he could have lived to be 200 years old.
Oh.
Yeah, which is a pretty...
I mean, truly, he's still alive. He still could.
That's possible. Yes, many things are possible. But as the halftime show was going on, and this came across my Twitter feed, a tweet from Representative Jackson, again, now representing Texas's 13th district. He was so disgusted by Rihanna's halftime performance and said that a far better choice would have been Ted Nugent. And that just got me thinking about lyrics.
Okay.
And what is appropriate and what may not be appropriate for a halftime show. Now, personally, I just found Rihanna's halftime show confusing. I didn't understand the puffy marshmallow dancers, but whatever. But I thought we would play a game called Teddy or Riri.
I like it.
So I will read off some lyrics, and you tell me whether you think it is Ted Nugent or Rihanna who wrote these lyrics.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
We have 4.
4.
We'll start with the first one. Here I come again now, baby, like a dog in heat. You can tell it's me by the clamor now, baby. I like to tear up the streets.
I'm pretty sure that's Rihanna.
I'm not finished.
Oh, okay.
No, you can't turn me round, and if a house gets in my way, baby, you know I'll burn it down. You ran the night that you left me. You put me in my place. I got you in a stranglehold, baby. That night, I crushed your face.
I'm still going with Rihanna.
No, that is Ted Nugent.
What?
The song is called Stranglehold.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's been around a long time. Long time.
Was there backlash when it first came out?
It was probably so acceptable that you smashed your spouse or whoever in the face. I don't think it probably even created a ripple at that time.
All right. 0 for 1.
0 for 1. We are playing, is it Teddy or Riri? Here's number 2.
Okay.
B better have my money. You should all know me well enough. B better have my money. Please don't call me on my bluff. Pay me what you owe me. Ballin' bigger than LeBron. B, give me your money. Who y'all think y'all frontin' on like bra. Teddy or Riri?
I know that one's Riri because that's what she started with last. So she kicked off the show with "B Better Have My Money."
Yeah,
I like that song.
Okay, do you?
I do.
Okay.
It's like it goes hard.
Well, just if you owe somebody money, you should pay them back their money. Okay, here's the next one in our game. We're calling Teddy or Riri. That Nadine, what a teenage queen. She looking so clean, especially down in between. What I like. She come to town, she be fooling around and putting me down as a rock and roll clown. It's all right. Wang dang sweet poontang. Wang dang, what a sweet poontang. A shaking my thing as a rang-a-dang-dang in the bell. She's so sweet when she yanks on my meat. Down on the street, you know she can't be beat. Wang dang, sweet poontang. Wang dang, sweet poontang.
Oh my!
Teddy or Riri?
I'm pretty sure Riri has never uttered the name Nadine, so I'm gonna go with Teddy.
I love how that is your determiner, and you're right. That is a classic Ted Nugent song entitled "Wang Dang, Sweet Poontang."
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Again, Ronnie Jackson, congressman from Texas, so disgusted by Rihanna's performance last night at halftime that he suggested Ted Nugent would be a better alternative.
Family man.
Yeah. Those
Clean.
good family values, you know, sending the positive message to the youth of America today.
Might as well have gotten Rafi.
Final one. Teddy or Riri?
All right.
Number 4. Got to keep it on the down low. I'll never let my mama know. Only call him on my cell phone. Only see him after dark. He scoops me up in his ride Friday about 8:45. So flying, so fine. And I'm so glad he's all mine. There's a thug in my life. How am I going to tell my mama?
I'm pretty sure that's Rihanna.
That is Rihanna. The song is called "There's a Thug in My Life." But I think Ronnie Jackson should start a petition.
Yeah. I mean, apparently, but that is the thing, right? The thing, like a lot of these country songs are not just country, but there's like traditional music, as maybe Ronnie Jackson would describe it. Sometimes the lyrics will fool you as far as how abusive or violent or sexual they are.
Sometimes you got to read them.
Just because Teddy can't dance like Riri doesn't mean that it's not just as nasty.
I thought it was an interesting comment to make, and I thought it was worth highlighting. You know, they just don't write lyrics like "Wang Dang Sweet Poontang" anymore, and the lyrical quality, it just is, it's underappreciated. It's such a shame.
Did you blush at all having to read those lyrics?
No.
You did fine.
Thank you.
It was very like slow clap for the performance.
I'm available for reading renditions of just about anything you want to throw my way. I'm here for you.
All right. Well, how'd you do at home? Because I think I got 3 out of 4. Not bad. But coming back, we are going to talk about Emily Post for 2023. So what do you think? If someone starts telling a story that you've heard before, how long do you get before you tell them, "Hey, buddy, you've told me this"? Let us know. 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
A progressive voice from Manitowoc to Janesville. WAUK 540 AM. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
CBS News Brief. Crews are working to recover remnants of another unidentified object shot down over Michigan yesterday. Congresswoman Alyssa Slotnick.
As a former CIA officer, we like to exploit things that we find. And so that's the recovery effort that's going on right now in Lake Huron.
Resources from around the world are still pouring in to help earthquake survivors in Turkey and Syria. Samantha Power leads the U.S. Agency for International Development.
Linda Thomas Greenfield, our UN ambassador, has introduced a resolution in New York demanding that more border crossings into northern Syria be opened.
The Kansas City Chiefs beat the Philadelphia Eagles and celebrated one of their own yesterday. Offensive guard Nick Allegretti became a father of twin girls early Super Bowl Sunday. Chiefs head coach Andy Reid.
They're very happy, and congratulations to them and their girls.
CBS News Brief. I'm Monica Ricks.
The Shaw 101 FM, your fix for progressive talk. From Butler to Wind Lake. Always streaming at WAUKradio.com.
For Civic Media News, I'm Terry Bell. Here's what you need to know. Expect more state money to go to local communities in Wisconsin to cover their public safety costs. Milwaukee Democrat Lena Taylor and Racine Republican Van Wangard were on the Upfront TV program yesterday. They both say they expect an agreement on shared revenue. Taylor and Wangard say the sticking point will be exactly how the money can be spent. Wisconsin Supreme Court candidate Dan Kelly is turning up his attacks on conservative rival Jennifer Duro. At a Republican Party event in the Madison area last week, Kelly again said he would not commit to endorsing Duro if she wins the primary. He went on to question her conservative bona fides and even her understanding of the law. The primary is a week from tomorrow. In sports, ESPN reports the New York Jets are asking the Packers about trading for quarterback Aaron Rodgers. I'm Terry Bell, and this is Civic Media News.
Hey everybody, how we doing? I'm Charlie Behrens, inviting you to join me Saturdays and or Sundays at noon. It's a horse apiece, whatever you decide. We're doing the Cripes Cast, where we talk to people for and or from the Midwest, and it's more fun than a six-pack of Jolly Good. Okay, the pride of Random Lake, that Jolly Good is. Anyway, it's on your Civic Media station and the Civic Media app. And do me a favor, tell your folks I says hi. Okay, real good.
Monday morning at 8, don't miss Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, featuring legendary Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Football, life, and fun.
Earl, you've been driving a Yugo. They just gave you a brand new Ferrari with turbo boost. So enjoy it, brother.
Under the Helmet with the Gravedigger, Gilbert Brown and Earl Ingram. Monday morning at 8 on the Shaw, 540 AM and 101.1 FM WAUK.
This is Pat Brightwell from Up North News Radio. On the air, online, or on demand, make it a point to catch the first word on Wisconsin news, sports, and more weekday mornings from 6 to 8 all across the stations of the Civic Media Radio Network.
27% of the American workforce, and some even say 30%, were in unions who had representation and who clearly did not have to worry about whether or not they were going to get their fair share. But I'm definitely going to fight for people who get the short end of the stick in this society only because they don't have representation. That's who I am.
Check out the Earl Ingram Show every day from 8 a.m. to 11 a.m. Only on WAUK 540 AM, 101 FM, The Shaw.
Jenny Bang.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin with Kristin Bry and Jane Madnair. No matter where you're listening across the Civic Media Network or on the Civic Media app, thank you for tuning in. And a reminder that if you miss any part of today's show, and today's show has been, not to toot our own horn, today's show has been very good.
It has. It's been educational, informative, a little infuriating, and a little fun.
We're now in the fun part of the show. But it's been hats off to all of our guests that we've had today.
Definitely.
Everyone's been excellent and so interesting. So if you want to go back and listen to any of that, you can do it as a podcast, which you can find on asgoeswisconsin.com/listen. which is where you can also find the show notes every day.
And which is so important because, again, if you listen to any of these interviews and you want to find out more, you link everything, all the articles. If you want to find out more, so you don't have to hunt and peck for that stuff yourself. It's really a valuable resource.
Thanks, Jane.
It is.
And you can find us wherever you find podcasts.
Yeah.
So if you want to subscribe to us on Spotify or Apple or Stitcher, and if you like us while you're there, leave a review. 5 stars or whatever you feel like is appropriate. But if you have thoughts on etiquette for 2023, this is the part of the show where we are going through some of New York Magazine's determinations as far as what goes and doesn't go in 2023 when it comes to etiquette.
It's proper behavior
in general. So we got 3 different ones today. I'm going to set them up and then we'll go one by one. But if you would like to join the conversation and give us your opinion via text or calling us, 844-967-2789. Otherwise, Jane and I will just be opinionated.
We'll kick them around.
So the first one has to do with how long you give someone before you, like how long till you tell someone, hey, buddy, you've told me this already.
Ooh.
The second one's going to be who gets to use the word partner. And then how you talk to your animal in public. All right. So, Jane, when someone, because I have a handful of people in my life, one in particular who shall not be named, who repeats themselves a lot. and so how long do you say, like, at what point do you give someone, you're like, hey, yeah, I love you. You've already told me this.
Okay, I'm going to put this into the classifications.
Okay.
So for husbands, relatives, and good friends, you get 15 seconds.
15?
And I'll cut you off, yeah.
Even if you recognize it right away?
Oh, yeah. I'll give you 15 just so you feel good.
Okay.
And then I'll probably say, you did tell me that already. And that doesn't even always work because some people will just keep going anyway. Because apparently the second time they tell you is going to be better than the first.
There's new details.
Yes, apparently so.
What's the rule for strangers or less close friends?
You see, less close friends, then I think you can't cut them off quite that quickly, especially if you might want a favor down the road.
Oh, this is getting in good graces?
Well, it's like, do I need something from you? Sure, I'll listen to that same boring. I'm so fascinated. Tell me again.
All right. Well,
what about you?
I think you're right that it depends on who it is.
Right.
And also with people you don't know as well, it's less likely you're going to hear the same story.
Exactly.
But with family, yeah, I don't know if I give them 15 seconds.
10.
Yeah, but this in New York Magazine, they're saying if someone starts telling you a story you've heard before, you have 2 seconds to tell them. Otherwise, you have to listen to the whole story.
Oh, that's baloney.
So they're saying interject with, oh my gosh, that was hilarious, or truly horrific, or unbelievable. You've told me. But if you don't say it within the allotted time, you just have to listen to them tell their story again. Ooh. And if you're in a larger group, you just have to listen, period.
Well,
which I do agree with.
I do agree with that too, because we're not trying to publicly shame people for forgetting that they told you a story. So I'll give them that. But 2 seconds, come on. Sometimes it takes you 2 seconds to realize that you heard it already.
That's fair. Maybe the implication is like as soon as you recognize the story, you got to tell them.
Yeah.
If you're not in to listen to the whole story again, you got to tell them pretty quickly to be like, hey, I love you.
Yeah.
You already told me this.
Fair enough.
I feel like I stop myself. I'm like, stop me if you told me this, because I think I tend to sometimes repeat myself. I also have my go-to stories.
We all have our go-to stories.
I know.
We do.
We'll get a laugh.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So I think you and I agree that maybe 2 seconds is a little too precise, but as far as if you got to tell them immediately. Don't let them get halfway through the story and then tell them, hey, you already told me this.
Because at that point, you're halfway through. You might as well let them finish.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Straight straight people can use the word partner only when they're trying to get out of something.
Okay, I need more explanation than that.
All right, so you're familiar with, certainly in the gay community,
Yeah.
especially for a long time before gay people could get married, they used the word partner.
Right.
I think now there are more people who are not necessarily married, who are heterosexual and in straight relationships, but use the word partner. When you're, I mean, I'm sure like if you were not married, and you like if you and Paul were not married,
Right.
wouldn't you feel a little silly calling him your boyfriend?
Of course.
Yes. So, but this is, I don't know, this is another very specific thing that I don't know if you and I are going to agree on. It's annoyingly vague, also smug, meaning the word partner. Some examples of when it's acceptable: when trying to procure an apartment or a seat next to your partner on an airplane, and in negotiations with bosses about relocations.
What?
So I guess I don't know why that would make a difference. You can only use it when you're trying to get something out of it by using it. Is it to insinuate that maybe you're not straight?
I find that very confusing.
Because then they go on to say this rule doesn't apply to people who are actively resisting the patriarchy by refusing to get married. You have no other word, we realize. But I still don't understand why it's appropriate if you're not actually referring to your long-term partner. I think at this point, like I'm confused by this, because I guess is there scenarios where they're saying straight people who are married are using partner instead of husband or wife?
I find that unlikely. And so if are straight people just not supposed to use the word partner unless they're trying to get something?
I know, which I don't understand what leg up that gets you to try to get something by being smug about my partner.
Well, and I don't understand why calling someone your partner is smug. How is that? What are you supposed to say? This is the person I've been sleeping with for 24 years? I mean,
at least it's honest.
Well, but come on. This whole ownership of words thing.
I know.
I get to own this word.
Well, it's ownership of words. It's also the evolving lexicon of what's appropriate. You know, we're going to try to find someone to talk about this with, but this is a little bit of a sidestep because we still have one more to get to. But I posted a video last week of when Keaton Kloss, who's the executive director of the Milton House Museum.
Great interview.
Educated, like clearly a history buff. And I posted the clip from that interview about why she uses the word freedom seeker and freedom maker. Because that was something I learned. And it made sense to me. And I had heard, I had learned previously that now instead of saying someone was a slave, you say enslaved person and certain things like that. And so like the evolving lexicon that is happening in the name of inclusivity, or depending on who you talk to, wokeness.
Right.
And it was interesting because ultimately there ended up being a handful of people on social media, this was on Instagram, that started attacking the word and saying this was whitewashing and just call it what it is. And there was and it was not just conservative white people saying this. It was people from the Black community saying like, I don't like this word. And like, we don't claim this word and this is too academic. And I ended up emailing Keaton because I was like, do you want me to take this down? Because I wasn't expecting this kind of backlash. But she said, I mean, it comes from, I'd have to look up the name that she referenced, but like in the museums and the sites that are still available,
historical
sites with the Underground Railroad, this is the terminology that they have used. And she said, she's like, it's not this, like, she's like, if you want to take it down, don't worry. I was like, I was just asking because if you wanted me to take it down because I had tagged you.
Sure. But
she said that she's gotten backlash in the past for that too. So she wasn't necessarily surprised by it. But it kind of goes to what you just said. Is like, who owns words? This is the Latinx versus Latino and Latina thing that people are, this came from academia, and a lot of people who are actually Latino don't identify with that at all. And so The same thing with partner for so long, I think, was the term for committed relationships, largely in the gay community because there was no other option.
Right. But certainly as fewer and fewer couples, straight couples are getting married, partner seems like a valid term to use.
Because boyfriend and girlfriend feels juvenile.
When you're in your 60s.
Or even
in your 40s.
Yeah.
It sounds kind of silly.
This is my boyfriend.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I feel like there's a bigger conversation to have there. And it probably depends on who you're talking to. Because Nicholas Kristof, very prominent reporter, journalist for New York Times for a long time. I haven't read it yet, but he wrote an article about this. And now there is a conversation around, well, is he the right person to be talking about this as a white man, as far as what words we're using? Is it more confusing? But what his point is, and it was kind of the point being made in the comment section, was it's kind of like, we pulled Aunt Jemima, we've solved racism.
Well, of course
it's
not.
like by thinking that by changing the words,
the terminology,
addresses systemic injustices, and that is there other things that effort could be put towards to actually move the needle more than just changing what words we use.
Well, of course. And if we had ended that segment by saying racism is over, well done, everyone, I could see why we would have gotten some pushback on it. But at the same time, we want to learn.
Totally.
We do want to hear those comments. We do want to, it's all open for discussion, folks. It is.
It is. We have thick skin.
Yeah. Relatively.
Depends on the day. All right. There's the final one.
Last one.
When another human is present, do not talk to your animal in the private voice you use when you're alone. Do not pitch that voice up.
Oh,
Cliffy baby.
It's almost impossible not to, though, isn't it? Because you see that little furry face and you just drop into pet parent.
Oh my gosh.
I mean,
little puppy face.
I know, right? Is it annoying? It's kind of endearing, actually.
So when Barkley was alive, would you do that voice in public?
Probably very unconsciously, But again, keep in mind, my voice only goes so high at this point in my life, so it's not like...
Touche, Jane. All right. Well, I don't know if we have time for another one. Do we have time for one more?
We have a minute.
All right. Well, we'll save it for tomorrow. But if you have thoughts on any of those etiquette rules, give us a text. Do you think... can you talk to your pet in that special voice when you're in public? Or how long do you give someone to let them know, hey, you've told me this before? 844-967-2789. That's 844-96-PARTY. And when we come back, Mike and I are new members of a legacy club. I can't wait to tell you about it. This is As Goes Wisconsin.
I know they hating on the spotlight, your manners.
Hey, this is Matt from Design Garden. Remember when the internet was new? Back then, you had to leave your house to start a business. Companies used to pay programmers bags of cash to get online. Now, small businesses can get online with a Facebook business page, or Squarespace, or Google My Business, or WordPress. But which tools should you use? Can you afford to go down the wrong path? Design Garden uses modern tools to build your website the right way. Find us online at design.garden. Again, that's design.garden.
You are listening to your local Civic Media radio station on air. Thank you. Did you know we are always streaming on TuneIn and the Civic Media app too? And if you miss a show or game, find it wherever you get your podcasts or on our website, civicmedia.us.
The Devil's Advocates.
The conservative dating app, The Right Stuff, is failing 3 months after launch. In October, the app, The Right Stuff, had just 11,000 downloads.
The profile creation process also asks users to list their thoughts about the January 6th Capitol riots. 2 reviewers claimed that FBI and police officers visited their homes after filling out their profiles.
The political party that is the Devil's Advocates radio show, live weekdays from 4 to 6 p.m.
You care for the house, the kids, and our future. A Shiro's day is never done. So let's start saving a little more now. Get free tips to help boost your retirement savings. Visit aceyourretirement.org.
Brought to you by AARP and the Ad Council.
Here's your updated forecast on the Shaw. Sunny skies this afternoon with highs around 46. West winds 8 to 15 miles an hour. Tonight, lows level off around 30. Cloudy skies expected tomorrow. Scattered rain showers likely. High temperatures reach up to 48. Overcast Wednesday with daytime highs approaching 45. 27 chance of snow Thursday. For Civic Media, I'm meteorologist Eric Height. Currently, it's 41 degrees.
The Shaw 101 FM, WAUK 540 AM, Wisconsin's home for rational talk radio.
Welcome back to As Goes Wisconsin on the Civic Media Network. I am Kristin Bry. She is Jane Madnair. Thank you for joining us on this very warm, balmy 41 degrees right now.
That's crazy.
So warm for early February. I guess we're now maybe mid-February since tomorrow.
Valentine's Day.
Valentine's Day. My husband tomorrow is leaving me on Valentine's Day to go have a Mikecation in Memphis.
What?
He is I don't know, this was at some charity event. He bid on a bunch of different like hotel night stays in a silent auction. And one of the ones that he won a handful, but one that he got was one night in Memphis. And with our schedule now, I can't just like get away.
Right.
As like I used to be able to.
In the middle of the week?
In the middle of the week. And so he was like, I think I'm going to use the Memphis one and I'll just go solo since it's only for a night anyways. So he got himself a ticket for a Memphis Bucks game.
Cool.
But he's like, his flight is first thing Wednesday morning out of O'Hare. So he's leaving me on Valentine's Day.
Tomorrow is Tuesday.
So he's going to sleep. His sibling, his sister and brother-in-law live 10 minutes from O'Hare.
Oh, okay. So he's
gonna
staying
leave
overnight
me,
there. Okay.
Drive to Chicago, stay at their house, and then fly out Wednesday.
This is the sign of a very comfortable relationship.
I think that's true. I don't really care.
Valentine's Day is a manufactured holiday.
I'm not sure we've ever, in the couple years we've been together, I don't think we've done a gift. I think we probably have done dinner, but I've never, I'm also not, we have to do something for our anniversary.
Right.
But it is a fun thing to give him crap for.
Grief about.
But the other thing that so yesterday, we had a very, I would say this is quintessential Wisconsin. And I do not say that tongue in cheek. I mean it as far as it is endearing how quintessential Wisconsin it was. So it was basically like an aunt, but it was his dad's cousin's wife passed a couple months ago. And they just had her service yesterday, and it was lovely. But the spread of the food was so Wisconsin. There was so much cream and mayo and different like insert pasta, potato, tuna, salad combinations.
Right.
There was puppy chow. There was the peanut butter with chocolate Rice Krispies. Which are so far superior to the marshmallow Rice Krispies. But just like walking through the lineup of the food that was available, which was all good, but it was just, I was like, oh, this is so Wisconsin.
You got your Jell-O molds, you got your casseroles.
Your stocked full bar.
Of course.
Full bar.
Well,
Mike got a Bloody Mary. And But it was also, which I had never been to one before. It was at Moose Lodge in Muskego. And I had never, I just have never been to one. And so I now know that there's over 1,600 across the country. They have over 1 million members.
There are 1 million Moose members?
There's 1 million Moose members.
Impressive.
And the newest one, unless something changed, is Michael Sampson.
So you guys joined the Moose Lodge?
I think his membership includes me. But certainly he joined. He was convinced because it's only $55 for a year.
Bargain.
There's a pretty big bargain. And he was a pretty easy sell as far as that. He was like, it's only $55 and I get like half off drinks and all this stuff. And I'm pretty sure every time he goes to Muskego from now on to see his dad, I will check Find Friends and he will be at the Moose Lodge pulling pull tabs and drinking a gin and tonic, taking advantage of that membership.
Can I ask what other benefits come along with being a Moose member?
So I was trying to figure that out. So it's like a fraternity, I think, of sorts. It's been around since 1888. And it's our fraternal organization rapidly expanded to include valuable service to our communities.
Cool.
Care for children and teens in need. I don't know exactly what member benefits were on the website. A Moose membership card provides access to over 1,600 lodges, so you can go to any Moose Lodge.
Nice. You have brethren, you have Moose everywhere.
Yes, but it also offers much, much more. Did you know that your Moose membership provides you with benefits that allow you to save more than your membership dues?
Wow.
Which isn't that much because it's only $55. But that's right. Just being a member of the Moose fraternity provides you with a variety of money-saving opportunities in categories like travel, entertainment, insurance, and health and wellness. Your Moose membership has its benefits. Don't forget to take advantage of all that the Moose has to offer.
Moose perks. Don't let them slip you by.
And so there is, I will have to improve my game because I've never played, but there are horseshoes and there's horseshoe leagues.
Okay. Oh, yeah.
So we may have to get into that. But the big takeaway was clearly any future baby shower will be at the Moose Lodge.
They've got the room.
They got that big room and we know they got a stock bar.
Exactly.
And so
perfect.
So yeah, so that was my funny weekend story that we are now Moose members.
Now, I did text this to you when we were conversing yesterday that you had joined, and I would think that one of the biggest, do they have special hats?
I did not see any special hats.
They should have special hats.
Because I asked my mom, I was like, wait, so is there a Moose Lodge in Rapids that we can go to? She's like, well, they still have Elks. They still have the Elks, which I don't know if that's a rival, if it was like the Sharks and the Jets.
That sounds like a competing lodge to me.
But I feel like the Elks maybe had hats. Or is that just out of like a trope out of a movie?
I would, as Moose Lodge members, you're going to have to investigate this a little further. And if there are not hats, then we need to start a push for hats.
All right. Well, I just searched on the website in their little search bar, hats.
Yeah.
Nothing found.
Oh, we got to have hats.
Sorry, but nothing matched your search term. So maybe we'll investigate if there is a special, because what is the group that has the little red?
The Shriners.
Those are the Shriners.
I believe so,
red,
yes.
Red caps.
The fez. They wear a fez.
It's interesting because I feel like there's still social clubs, but it feels like this breed of Shriners and Moose and elk like isn't as popular anymore, right? With younger people. It's not like people are signing up in the same way they did where there were so many, and so many of them had healthy memberships.
Yeah.
And so did you ever have family that was in any of these types of groups that was like it was a big part of their identity and social life?
Not Moose or elk that I recall. I know my father was a member of the Lions Club.
Is that a similar?
Well, they do a lot of charitable things and fundraising for various charities, which I think a lot of these organizations ultimately do.
Is it kind of like how for Junior League was for women? So Junior League didn't really have like a location. Like you were a member and there was meetings, but it wasn't like they had a lodge or a meeting thing. All right. Well, We've run out of time. This is As Goes Wisconsin. Come back tomorrow at 11 a.m. Thanks for listening.
Stands so tall as when he stoops to lift a child.
For adults with moderate to severe